Something that shouldn't be said. It is not right. A woman is an adult female, and the court has made that absolutely clear. I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity. It allows those that have got to draw up guidance to be really clear about what that guidance should say. If you want to fight for Remain, vote Labour. Now, there are some who say we don't need Brexit to work. We need to reverse it. I couldn't disagree more. Day after day, there are new allegations of sleaze, of favours, of privileged access. And it's all very well the Prime Minister saying, well, say now, well, I'm paying for it.
You've decided to repay £6,000 worth of gifts.
Lord Ali is facing an investigation. I wonder how concerned you are that your biggest donor was not fully transparent.
Are you saying you made a mistake?
It was right for me to make those repayments. Thank you. Of course, I wouldn't want Donald Trump round for dinner, but don't underestimate the danger to the world if Trump is re-elected this time around. I'm anti-Trump. I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump on his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It certainly can't. Good morning. It's the 1st of September. A pinch and a punch to anybody you don't like for the first of months. JK in for Mike. If you are waking up and thinking, where is he? He's still in New York. He went on Friday. He hasn't had a drink. He has, actually. He's still up. Anyway, we'll be back on Thursday morning. 3 days of me, you unlucky people. Listen, so much going on in the world across the weekend. When we left breakfast on Friday, it was ahead of that ridiculous judgment by that High Court judge that, in fact, the people of Epping's concerns about migrants centred on the fact that women were saying our daughters might be in a dangerous position, thrown out. Starmer and his government can stand accused, I think it's fair to say, of favouring migrants over the people of Epping. And then it comes out, this is brilliant over the weekend, that the judge in that case is being reported judicially because it turns out he used to work for the Fabian Society. And guess what? He's mates with all those lefty lawyers like that weirdo Hermer who runs the, I think he's the Attorney General. Rayner, she's not in Ethiopia, she's in Ove. Hold on, where are... Oh, look, this is brilliant. In front of the Mail, Labour Civil War fueling Ange sleaze claims. Over the weekend, 3 news stories. Where did she get the mortgage? Did the boyfriend get paid some contract? What's his name? Sat the ginger one. And rumours that she used a wealth fund management consultant. All this from a woman from up north who's done so well to have three homes. But they're saying that Keir Starmer's position is already becoming increasingly untenable and Labour grandees are jostling for position, and that's what it is. Meanwhile, front of the Mirror, not that I would ever want to promote that newspaper on this station, but here we go. This is Keir. This will make you feel good, OK? I'll defeat Farage's scare tactics. To give you some idea, lose that Betterman, to give you some idea that the Prime Minister of this country has got his finger on the pulse, not. Recently, over the weekend, I think, he released this. If any of you can explain to me what the hell this means, this is Keir Starmer posted on X. Have a watch. Oh, it's not ready. Oh, no. Oh, that's my fault. He's frowning at me, Christian. You didn't tell me you were going to do that, he says, you totally incompetent presenter. Right, 3 ways of contacting the show as ever. 0344 499 1000. Damien is here. He makes a good cup of tea and he answers the calls. 0344 499 1000. You can use the same number for a WhatsApp message and send a voice note. We like voice notes and Christian likes to play with them, so please do that. 0344 499 1000. And on the text, 8722. Start your message with the word talk. It's 6:05. There is a man who means more to me politically than most. If I ever got to a position of anything, this man would be with me. We say a very good morning to former government advisor. Said this man knows the truth. JP, James Price, hello.
Good morning, my friend.
You're looking very dapper.
Well, it's only for you that I would get out of bed at this time of day and leave Mrs. Price, or more accurately, probably the dog sat at the foot of the bed, to come all the way down here and be with you, but I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
You're a lovely man. What a day. Let's start with this extraordinary story that is fueling, newspaper columns by the bucket load. Labour Civil War, front page of the Mail today, fueling Rayner sleaze crisis. There are questions for her, many questions, because of course you've got a house up north, you've got Admiralty Arch, now you've got an £800,000 apartment in Hove. How did you afford that? It turns out over the weekend she used a wealth management consultant. Not bad for a single mum from Stockport, is it?
Absolutely right. Or a 38-year-old grandmother, as she was at one point. I think the whole thing about Angela Rayner that really gets my goat is that she is a sort of posh North London, Islington person's caricature of what a British working class member is like, right?
Yep.
My mum and dad left school very early. Dad's highest qualification is a forklift truck licence, and there's no one in this country who dislikes Angela Rayner more than my mum and dad, because she seems to come across as this caricature.
Yep.
She's uncouth, she's rude, she goes inside the House of Commons chamber and shouts, "Both the scum" at the Tory front bench.
Scum!
Right?
Scum!
And just horrible briefings against her colleagues, seems to be totally out of her depth in her actual job. And while she's on manoeuvres, so too are the rest of her Labour rivals, because they all smell blood. They all think that Starmer's not going to make it to the end of this Parliament, and now they're fighting like rats in a sack, and the heart bleeds for the Labour Party.
Who would have thought that, though? Seriously, right? that a man who walked into Downing Street with a 180-seat plus or minus majority, a few seats, 12 months ago. Obviously on this station we take Starmer to task, because I don't think he had a plan. I don't think he's done a good job. Right, but how many people would have thought that actually this guy, he is on the rocks, isn't he? Undoubtedly.
Yeah, I think I'm probably, it's fair to say, one of the most partisan people out there.
Yes.
Even I didn't think they'd be this bad, this fast, this many different ways. I didn't know. Well,
I'm older than all of you, except for Mike, right, who's not here. And I genuinely, I was 15, 79, 14. I knew during the election that they would get, and I also knew that they've only got one policy, which is to tax anybody who's successful and pay all their union mates until the country's bankrupt. And that is exactly what's happening. I don't think they'll ever be elected for years and years and years. I genuinely don't on the back of
that is the one silver lining that I think should hopefully sustain this country through to whenever the next election will be, that provided that they don't fiddle with something, they're already trying to fiddle with reducing the voting age to 16. Will they give the votes to all Europeans, all people here with indefinite leave to remain, right? Because already lots of people who aren't British citizens can vote in our elections.
Oh, you can vote in our elections and have a house. There you are. It's all brilliant.
Yeah. And if you could be a member of the Commonwealth, so theoretically there are over 1 billion people who could come here and vote in our elections already. Will they extend that to Europeans and other people to try and fiddle the vote so they can stay in? Unless they do something like that, I think there's, as you say, there's no hope they're going to survive, and maybe, just maybe, it will be the end of socialism forever in this country.
I'm going to play that Starmer clip in a tick, but I remember on drive time when this came out about increasing or lowering, I should say, the age for voting to 16, and I'm talking to my son Henry about it, and we came up with a great statistic which Christian knows about. There's all sorts of things you can't do at 16, but you'll be able to vote. You can't phone a radio station without asking your mummy and your daddy, but you can vote for this man, apparently, or not. This is Keir Starmer. God knows where this came from, peeps. This is apparently what he put out over the weekend. Bear in mind, this country's on its arse. Have a watch.
Before your wedding day, everyone says it's going to be the best day of your life. And, you think, well, I'm not sure. What about when Arsenal won the double?
He's the coolest man in European football. Ever since I was a G.
Sorry? So I just look at that and I go, so you've hacked off your wife. We won't go into that because we'll probably be sued. No mention of Lord Ali. We won't go into that. We won't be sued. You've got a terrible left foot and you've... You're laughing. You were a talk to me.
Well,
just crap.
It's not often I'm lost for words. It is crap. It's the only technical term for this. This idea that this is what the young kids like, right? That people are now so stupid and vacuous that all they want is a kind of short TikTok video edit and oh, ha, 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 let's go back to that old school thing of sending, making the missus be the punchline. Just given some of the stories kicking around, I think it's really pathetic from him. It's really desperate. And it shows that not only does he not have a grip on the government and what the government is up to and any kind of actual strategy for the country, he can't even handle the party himself.
No.
And he was quite good, actually, when he first came in at kicking all the kind of complete Corbyn freak loser weirdos out of the party and held it with a kind of an iron grip. And he just seems to have lost all of it automatically.
I said during the campaign, I just don't think that it's extraordinary to think there was no plan. It's extraordinary to think that I just think he's out of his depth. And you're going to hate what I'm going to say. I blame them. I blame the Tories absolutely 1,000,000%. I mean, lost the ear of the British public, allowing this rabble to be in charge of us. I mean, what's he saying on the front of the Mirror today? This is Starmer at his best. I'll defeat Farage's scare tactics. Keir Starmer has vowed to tackle reform's fear tactics with a range of policies that offer genuine hope. Where's the hope in anything that man's done in the last 12 months? In fact, I was telling them in the office this morning, I read an article at the weekend. United Kingdom. Try disunited wasteland of misery right now. No border. No, there's no united at all. I don't know whether he was the right person at the wrong time or the wrong person at the right time, but I'm agreeing with you. He's in trouble, isn't he? Genuinely in trouble.
I think
couldn't happen to a more horrible guy.
Quite. Well, the other thing is, as I said, he did kick out all those Corbyn people.
Yep.
They've gone off and tried to start their own party.
Jezbollah,
exactly. Although
that's great.
You're already seeing the fact that the left in Britain today is mostly ultra woke progressive types who think there are 87 genders and that men can have babies, and increasingly. And well, I don't remember my biology classes, but I'm fairly certain there's not an avenue for it to go through.
No.
But you've got those guys, and you've got the increasingly strident Islamists, right? That's basically the modern left in this country. And those two guys don't agree on an awful lot. So you've got Adnan Hussain, who's one of the independent MPs, who's getting himself involved in the Corbyn lot, saying there's only two sexes, men can't have babies, which is right. And then you've got all the ultra-progressives going, we've stood up for you and Muslim rights, how dare you, that's not very progressive. So they're going to be fighting like rats in a sack.
I'm really old-fashioned.
They all hate Starmer, at least.
I'm really old-fashioned. I remember when women had wombs. 0344 499 1000 is the telephone number. Voice notes, we've got one. Liam on Rayner, go.
Morning, Jezza and James and team. Well, this weekend has just proved what we all know, hasn't it? That this socialist government doesn't care about us, and they're an absolute disgrace. I can't see how they last till Christmas, to be honest. I mean, how many cock-ups since they've been in has there really been? But I think this one is the cherry on top of the cake. Have a great show, guys.
Lovely, 30 minutes past 6, cock-ups, there you go. The footage of Rayner, honestly, apart from the fact I hate people that wear dry suits, toweling jacket, robe things, look at that. Nice glass of Liefraumilch, right? Bra sticking out from underneath top, tattoo on arm, and there he is. Is that Sam Tarry? Can we please? Is that the boyfriend? Because that's another story this weekend. So Sam Tarry was the MP who got thrown out, right? She's the Deputy Prime Minister. It turned out, I think, that a company he had links to had won a big contract from the government and all that crap they came out with, which was, I think, justifiable. Tory sleaze and PP contracts and looking after your mates. This lot was bad, man.
Well, this is a big problem, isn't it? That it's the hypocrisy that always gets people at the end of the day. That Labour spent all this time, 14 years in opposition, pretending that their poo didn't smell, and just thinking they had all that time to plan these things. They had all this time, and they're the Tories. I think they got high on their own supply. I thought they genuinely believed that they were good people, and the Tories were just evil. And as soon as the Tories left, it would all be okay. They get in and they go, oh my God, as you said, we're so out of our depth here. We've got no idea. So because they can't do any of that, it goes back to the blob to run things, which has been running things into the ground for decades and decades, minorly arrested by the Thatcher revolution, which saved us for the time being. That Blair comes back in, superpowers that blob. So the blob's running the country. What does that leave Labour to do? It leaves them to fight each other, try and enrich their mates, as you say. And as the Mail says as well, it one really great attack from the Conservatives that caused a lot of this. A guy called Alex Burghardt, who's probably the smartest person in the Conservative Party, a guy to watch, who's made a lot of hay with this stuff, I think yesterday on some of the shows, pointing out this kind of Labour civil war infighting. Because what you've also seen Angela Rayner do recently has been reported in one of the bills that her her department is pushing.
This is really interesting,
and
Pete.
this is so. I mean, it's kind of clever in a way from her.
Yeah.
Is there's going to be a clause in one of these bills that says that all these metro mayors, people like Labour's Andy Burnham, future leadership contender, people like Sadiq Khan, somehow, some people still consider a Labour leadership contender.
Too much for me.
Will not be allowed to be a metro mayor and be an MP at the same time. So Rayner, I think that her hanging out on the dinghy is her sort of celebratory lap, having killed off 2 of her opponents.
It's really interesting though, Rayner, isn't it? Because, you know, I genuinely mean this. When she sort of came to prominence, you think, you know, a young grandmother who's come from nothing. When you look at what she's become and how she goes about it, the thing I always say, Jay, and I do spend a lot of time in Newcastle, people know that. I haven't met anybody from a working class background in the last 6 months north of Islington, right, who thinks that the Labour Party represents working people. They came to power talking about working families and growth. They've destroyed businesses with the NI raise. And to me, they are as distant from the working fraternity in this country as they've ever been. And you think about the Labour Party, it was for labourers. That was the whole idea. I also think, you talked about him earlier, I think Corbyn will nick votes. I genuinely think that Jezza will nick votes.
I think you're right. I think that's why the next election, look at them at the moment, is so interesting. The Tories not doing so well, Lib Dems doing, you know, all right, the Greens, and with a somehow still
he's
a
not
rub
going,
Labour
He's not
votes.
going to the banquet because God told him not to go to Trump's banquet.
Do you think Trump's worried about Ed Davies' support?
I think Ed Davey is an even bigger Bell Hotel with another word than thing. So Starmer is taking aim at Farage. I always think as well, because you're political, right? I always think with him it's sort of reactive and not proactive. And I'm not sticking up for Nigel Farage. There's plenty about reform, the gaps need filling in. There's people that with issues, etc., etc. But Starmer doesn't seem to have still an idea. He'll react to other people. That's why I've been crying out for Badenoch, whatever you tell me, to open her mouth and get on the front foot, because I think people in this country are fed up, actually, with politicians who just wait and see what a sentence will do once they've put it in front of a focus group. Speak from the heart, all of you useless people. Tell us what you think and see if you can get our support to be courageous in anything.
Yeah, I completely agree. Of course, actually, it's worse than that, because if they were listening to focus groups or to polls, they would be dealing with the immigration crisis as well, because that's what comes up. You actually can't, I think we've talked about this before, you can't mention Keir Starmer's name or Rachel Reeves in a focus group, a professional person.
That happens on Talk. Do you know that as well? Do you know if you do a focus group on Talk, you can't mention my name? Seriously, people just go off in droves. Honestly, it's outrageous.
Stop it.
It's true. Now, back to The Sun, the lovely newspaper. Big feature on page 8 and 9. This is really interesting. 300... Oh, I can't do this. £300,000 new homes for asylum seekers. 4 houses rent-free in village, whilst our own community really, really struggles. What in the name of God do they expect people, hard-working people right now, to think when they read that?
Well, they expect exactly what the government lawyers working for Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, argued in court at the end of last week about Epping, that the rights of asylum seekers in Great Britain today are more important than the rights of British people.
How bad is that? Right? How bad is that?
That's where we've got to. And this is why I think that there's so much civil strife that's coming down on the horizon. That's why people feel this level of hopelessness that you've talked about. They had an election, a great big swing away, and look, whatever I think about the Labour Party, they have a mandate to go and do all kinds of things. I think the things they'll do will be terrible, whether it was economics or culture or whatever. They had a mandate to do it, and all that's happened is that things have got much, much worse. Yeah. And it looks like, actually, however useless my Tories were for a while in some areas, they managed to actually stop, it turns out, the blob, the system, doing an awful lot of bad stuff, right? As Louis XIV would say, après moi la déluge, right?
Don't know what that means. Not into the French.
After me the flood, the Tories go out the way, and suddenly all of this horrible stuff is coming down the line that Labour are doing nothing to fix, including things like this. And this is a logical conclusion when you have a series of laws sent in from first Brussels, now Strasbourg with the ECHR, that says in law you have to statutorily give rights to these people, you have to give houses to these people, you have to give money to these people.
I'll tell you what we'll do. This is the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson. How did she get the jobs? This is her on Sky News yesterday, talking about, if you are listening in Epping or across the country, right, this is them explaining why, in their mind, asylum seekers have more rights than us, although we're paying the taxes. Have a watch.
It is about a balance of rights. When people come to this country and claim asylum, we have a responsibility as a government to assess their cases and to process them. For those who have got a clear right to be here, for those who have evidenced what they are facing in terms of persecution, refugees, then that will be decided. Where they don't, then we will take action to remove people from the country. So we do have a responsibility to process those cases. And yes,
and
to
the
provide,
responsibility to
put
those
people
asylum
in
seekers is more important than the responsibility to those who live locally.
Our responsibility to those who live locally is also important as well.
But doesn't it tell you everything, very quickly, right, that the balance of that is we're going to start, if you're the Education Secretary, saying it's important that we treat asylum seekers perfectly, under whatever treaty was at the very end, when pushed by the excellent Trevor Phillips, oh, yes, the rights of locals. She absolutely, I've got another one, she absolutely agreed with the judges. Bridget Phillips, and again, don't yawn.
Do you agree with what your lawyers said, or don't you?
Yes, of course we do.
Yes, of course we do. Should we do a bit of work here? Should we prove that we're not put together? The judge who ruled asylum seekers can continue to be housed at an Essex hotel has been reported to the Judiciary over the weekend amid claims of apparent bias over his links to left-wing organisations. Lord Justice, is it Bean? Oh, hello. Well, honestly, that sums it up. Delivered Friday's landmark Court of Appeal way. Basically, a leading barrister has referred the senior judge to the JCI, the office, the investigation, which deals with discipline and claims of potential conflicts. Apparently, he was chairman of the Socialist Fabian Society from 89 to 90, which works very closely with Labour and is an old mucker of Lord Herman, that disaster of an Attorney General. Jobs for the bleeding boys again, and Phillips and Jesus.
Well, two bits here. I mean, Bridget Phillipson, if you haven't heard the name Lucky You, I think she's genuinely the most disgusting member of this cabinet by a country mile. She is sacrificing the future prosperity of the nation's children on the altar of her attempts to succeed Keir Starmer. I think she's a dreadful woman. I think she is evil. I think what she's doing is evil, and I'd go so far as to say that, and she can come at me all she wants. She's a dreadful person. I've worked in that department. I've seen what the good you can do with a decent education policy, transforming the lives of people up and down the country. She wants to destroy that on the altar of her socialist ideas. She's a dreadful person. And on this judicial stuff, right, we talked about the blob already a few times today. This is what the blob does. This is what actual hard leftists do. They get themselves into all these different institutions where you can't be voted in or, crucially, voted out, and they will do their evil left-wing socialist stuff. And once they've got themselves inveigled in, they'll put on literally on the robes and all the rest of it, and then if you dare criticise them, you are criticising the independent judiciary, how could you do such a thing? And then the right look like baddies. They're not. And we need, I think, to clear out the entire Aegean stables of this, get rid of a lot of this stuff and start it over again, because all of these things have been infiltrated by termites.
Really interesting. 6:22, it's Monday morning, it's the 1st of September, a pinch and a punch, not for her, for the 1st of the month. JK for MG on Morning Glory. What do you want to talk about? It's up to you. 0344 499 1000. So Angela Wren has got three places to live. Apparently she's trying to get rid of people. Apparently she wants to succeed Starmer. Apparently it's meltdown, but it's okay. She's got 3 houses. The asylum seekers have got £300,000 houses. You're going to work today. You're thinking, what the hell am I doing? I'm on my backside here. I'm struggling to make ends meet, and they're getting more than me. But fret not, my friends, because Keir Starmer... Actually, let's go to the break. The man whose very fingertips are all over the disaster that is this country right now thought it would be a good idea this weekend not to address his people and say, I promise you I'm going to get it right. This is what he put out on TikTok.
Before your wedding day, everyone says it's going to be the best day of your life. And, yeah, you think, well, I'm not sure. What about when Arsenal won the double?
He's the coolest man in European football.
He's the uncoolest man in British politics. We're back in 3.
what I would say, first of all, is that there's a lot of heavy lifting going on in the term could when it comes to could vote for these things. As you say, Jeremy Corbyn's party doesn't even have a name yet. But what I think this poll is reflecting is actually the kind of patterns that we're seeing really across established democracies, particularly in Europe, among young people. And the poll more widely talks about the kind of difficulties that people of different teenage years have faced since COVID.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
6:27, JK for MG for Morning Glory. He's in America, God bless him. He's fallen out of a bar backwards. Can I just say about the traffic and travel? I'm not being rude. Gary King used to be a big radio star. He's doing traffic and travel now here. I mean, I've fallen far, but really. Anyway, I isn't doing the traffic and travel like that. We are convinced in the studio that he's done it from home and he's just trying to make sure it doesn't wake the wife up. You know, so if you're driving somewhere in Nuneaton, be very careful. Good on you, Gaz. Top job. James Price is here reviewing the papers. We want your calls, 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Voice notes to WhatsApp. It's all going on. Most voters, this is the Times, page 8 and 9, want Rachel Reeves, Richard III, Rachel from Accounts, that useless blah, gone, because they absolutely correctly think tax rises are unfair. Just going back to what I was saying before, when I was growing up, the Tories were about low taxation. The Labour Party would tax anybody who'd been successful. They came and they talked about growth. It's about growth. It didn't happen like that, did it? Because they screwed smaller businesses. The Tories left office with the highest taxation in 70 years. COVID, yeah, whatever. Fact is, there's not so much more that Middle England can stomach, is there?
There's definitely not much more. You can't squeeze much more out of all of this. There's a very simple economics concept called the Laffer curve.
Now, the what?
The Laffer curve, named after Art Laffer.
You're so intelligent, aren't you? How intelligent is he?
Stop it.
Stop it, thank you.
The logic behind this is just a very simple observation that there is a limit to which you can tax people before the tax amount of money that you get starts going down again. So obviously, if you tax people 100% straight away, nobody's going to bother to go to work, so you don't get any money.
I mean, that's true.
Right? And if you tax zero, then obviously you get zero as well. So there is at some point where you get a kind of optimum tax take. It doesn't say when that might be, but you get to a certain point where you might go, or people listening at home might go, do you know what? Blow this for a game of soldiers, right? There's no point in me going and doing that extra shift. Point. No point in me trying to build this new business or this new product, because almost all of it is going to get gobbled up by Rachel Reeves.
And then you do that, right? And you look at what Reeves is doing, and you look at what's happening with migration, you look at what's happening to public services, and you think, oh my God, now a lot of people will phone in and tune in and go, oh, do you think you're being a bit unfair? You've had a go at Starmer, you've had a go at Bridget Phillipson. Not really. This is Richard III. We call her that, Mike and I, because have a look at the fringe. This was her last month at a Lords committee. Now, I'm not being disrespectful. You know, this is the first female chancellor. How incompetent does she look here? Have a watch.
At the same time, we also have a challenging economic inheritance with high levels of tax as a share of GDP, historic high levels of government debt, and then also economic growth that really for the last 15 years has been very poor by historical standards because of the weak productivity growth that we've experienced in that period of time.
Again, I don't want to be disrespectful. Precisely. Look at put the camera on James Price. All right, go. What? How does? That's the most senior. I'm an economist in the United Kingdom. We've got listen. And I was really sceptical at the Tories at the end, but this front bench is appalling. I mean, How incompetent does she look?
It's extraordinary, isn't it? You may remember Alan Greenspan, who was the chairman of the Federal Reserve in America for a very, very long time.
Has he been fired by Trump?
And people, I think he's still going. He's about $1.5 million now. But people used to watch him in the run-up to announcements about changing in interest rates, and they'd look at his briefcase. They say, "Oh, it looks a bit heavier than normal because he's sort of tilted a little bit. Maybe he's having to read more because things are difficult. Or, oh, he's got a lighter coloured tie. Maybe that means good news on the horizon." They do all of that kind of criminology of him. Rachel Reeves sat there in the House of Commons openly crying her eyes out. Like, what is that supposed to send as a signal to markets, to business?
If that's the most... I'll tell you what, a lot of people... This is interesting, this voice note. Graham, a lot of people are genuinely, of my age and more, genuinely stopping and thinking, what the hell's going to happen to this once great nation? Graham, voice note, go!
Morning, Jezza and James. Good to see you. I am really concerned about this government. Is there any process in place to cause a snap election? Because I am really concerned about how this country is going to end up in 4 years. I'm 61, I've got 2 grandkids, 3 and 1. I'm really concerned about the kind of country that they're going to grow up into if Labour do the full term.
And actually, you know what, that is a very serious view, and I think I said it to you earlier, I said it to Christian and you, I'm a granddad. I seriously, for the first time in my life, want to become far more vocal. That didn't go quite right, but you know what I mean politically, because I actually think, what the hell are we going to end up doing? There isn't anything that anybody can do for the next 4 years, is there?
No, not really. I mean, we can keep putting pressure on by having callers like Graham just there, right? And some point Labour will start to hear some of this stuff. The civil servants who work for them will hear this. They will start trying to explain to them. As ever, I think Westminster is the last place to understand any of this stuff, and I don't think they realise the level, not just of fear about how the economy is going, but the fury, the anger about how things are being so badly handled. And I think that's a real problem. You've got someone like David Betts, who people want to look him up, is a very sort of respected, boring academic who has started saying in the last 6 months, I've looked at all the academic literature and I think that Britain is on its way towards proper civil conflict, if not civil war. That's how scary things have got. And I do think that for a long time people have been criticised when they come out and speak publicly about politics. So the fact that you are doing this and are being increasingly vocal about this, I think is excellent. And the more people do that, because high-quality, talented people have looked at politics, thought they're not very good.
I hate to bring it up,
rubbish.
but what about Rayner last week on This Morning? The man's been... And I want to say this over the weekend. He's a friend of mine, that's fine, I didn't get involved in it. He was brave enough, not even brave enough, just honest enough on This Morning. Gone. Not on This Morning anymore. And I'm telling you now, we had, I think it was Charlie Rowley on Friday was booked to do a debate on immigration on Friday, dropped by GMB at the last minute. They want to talk about the royals instead. We are facing a situation, in my humble opinion, where it's easy on this station, it's easy to be honest, and I love the fact that we're able to do that. But politicians, I think, are undermining themselves by not understanding the depth of anger, the depth of frustration, the lack of belief, the lack of faith. And you don't need to have all the answers. You just need to be able to speak to people openly and honestly. We're so just, I don't think, wrapped up in this rubbish about how we should do this, how we should do that. Just say what you feel. You're not out to offend. But I think this country, not a precipice, but this country is at a really interesting point. And I didn't get a chance to say to you last week because we didn't speak, but I keep going back to this text I had on Drive a couple of weeks ago from a bloke who said, Jez, you know where we're at? When the silent majority realise their voice can be heard, the government, whatever its colour's in trouble. I think that's really, really salient.
Yeah, absolutely right. Look, our whole system of government is predicated on the idea that you have the consent of the people, right?
Yeah.
And we have that through regular elections. This all comes to be very nerdy again, out of the glorious revolution of 1688, right? So we have this idea...
of my mother.
You have this lovely idea that people get a say in these things. And the reason that is so good is that you then get this amazing, massive feedback mechanism of the opinions of tens and tens of millions of people distilled down through the ballot box. And then you go, OK, the Tories did some good things in the first term they had. They got another go. They did some OK thing, Theresa May, whatever, did some more good things with Boris. It all went wrong again. OK, fine. So you then have the correction mechanism, a new party come in. And what the people have realised is that nothing has changed. It's only got worse.
Absolutely.
And the reason for that is, like, I'll bang on about it until my grave or until I destroy them, is the blob, is the structure, is the system, is the civil servants.
So Dominic
and the
Cummings was right.
Dominic Cummings is right, unfortunately, about basically everything. Maybe, I don't know about his eyesight, but basically everything. and so until you fix that, nothing is going to change. And this is the really scary bit, because Labour have come in without a clue. They've got no idea what they're up to, and people realise that. They realise that nothing has changed.
No,
they're hearing the same crap being spouted to them, but much worse, because Labour are actually, I think, inclined to be more pro this blob, because they're big state people in general. They're socialists. They think the state can do more and should do more. And as a result, we're seeing the images that you can see all up and down the country, at a point where, you know, waving the flag of this country is seen as controversial. That is a really dangerous place to be.
So much to talk about this morning. 25 to 7, 0344 499 1000. Next, we're going to... front of the sun. Camilla whacked a groper in the ghoulies. Nothing classy on this show. Back in 3, I'm off for a week.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
The Fox back this afternoon from 1. My wife's favourite, the housewife's favourite, Ian Collins. He told me to say that. 22 minutes 7 o'clock, JK for MG on breakfast. Good morning. It's Morning Glory. So much to talk about. The amazing James Price is with us. Thanks for the text. They weren't coming through until Christian went, push that. I think he thinks I'm a technical idiot. I am. Mick's in Wallington. Somebody has to be. Starmer is a duplicitous, seriously flawed character and has been found out by his party, the voters and the cabinet. We all want rid of him. Sean's in Gloucester. Morning, Shawnee. Morning, Jake. What's the waving hand
I'm
for?
a Gloucester boy. Good
Are you?
Yeah. I bet this is going to be the best text we get.
Does Angela hypocrite Rayner's antiques indicate what Rachel Thieves is planning in the budget to hammer people with second homes? The cynic in me says yes.
There you go. Future chance of the Exchequer there. That's
yes. What else is famous from Gloucester? There's Sean, there's James Price.
There's Alex Phillips of this show, there's Cheese Rolling and Fred West.
Yes, good. Bill's in Romsey. Brilliant. How'd you get Alex Phillips and Cheese Rolling into one sentence? Don't even go there, it's too early in the morning.
It's all downhill from here.
Thank you. Oh, JK and JP, do you think Starmer will get rid of our Ange? Maybe a reshuffle next week so that him and Rachel are safe for a few years. Great show. Thank you very much indeed. Sharon Miller. Good morning, Jeremy and James. Good to see you both. This useless, pathetic Starmer accusing Nigel Farage of scaremongering. No, he's not. He's just saying what the British people are saying and wanting in their country, the UK. I just cannot tolerate this useless, pathetic government any longer. It is driving me insane. Paul's in Salford. Have you been to Salford, Christian? Nice. Morning, Jez. I went there once. It was closed. I have a well-paid job as a gas network engineer for over... I've had. Your English isn't great. For over a quarter of a century, my partner is in the care sector. Good. I get paid very well, but my partner is on peanuts. That's a whole different story. And if it wasn't for worrying over my adult daughters being left alone in this country, I would be disappearing to Australia to live as my partner has dual citizenship. Our once great country is on its backside. I think Paul in Salford speaks for absolutely everybody. 20 to 7. What do you make of it? Text 87 222. Start your message with the word talk. Your calls 0344 499 1000. Christian Doubt, the A-team are in, except for me. Mike's in America. James Price, front of the Sun. This is brilliant. Well done to Matt Wilkinson, the royal editor from the Sun. Camilla whacked Groper in the Ghoulies.
What an amazing headline, right? I mean, it gets even better when you turn to page 5. Quote, I took off my shoe and hit him in the nuts with the heel. Nothing but respect for my queen. My admiration for her could only be matched by Pam from Gavin and Stacey. I think she's a fine woman. And
I have to say about Camilla, genuinely, she was cast, understandably, I suppose. She has earned my immense respect because she gets her head down and works. I think she adores him. I think it's an absolute flaw of our royal family that they weren't allowed to marry who they loved. So, yeah, fair play to them. Fantastic.
Now, there's a great video, by the way. Have you ever seen when her and Charles go and see the throat singers?
No.
And it's a kind of... they sound like that as they sing. You've got to Google it. And she can't contain herself. Is crying with laughter.
I think she's probably
hiding behind the tissue, laughing. Amazing.
She's done a lot, though, for women who are attacked, so that's an interesting headline. We'll do more of that later. Camilla whacked a groper in the Ghoulies. Well, you're waking up to talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Now, I nag you every time we speak, because I say the problem with your party is if I hear bloody Cammy Badenoch one more time saying, well, we're just working out where we went wrong and we're working out what the voting public wants. It's been 12 months, love. Page 2 of the Sun. Badenoch even, to bin net zero. Let's drill the North Sea dry, baby. Why has it taken 12 months to say the bleeding obvious? Here's what I don't get about the whole net zero thing, apart from the fact that Christian shocked me last week. I know that wind turbines don't make enough and we have to import it. And then if it blows too hard and we make too much, we can't store it because that's too expensive. If you've got, in effect, as Trump says, money underneath the very ground you're walking on that would cure many of the financial ills of this country, why wouldn't you bloody well utilise that? I don't get it.
Yeah, completely agree with you. Look, on the Kemi front, I like the idea that we could live in a civilised enough Britain that was ticking along nicely enough that the Conservative Party could sit there with all the think tanks, many of whom I work with and think are great, and work through a proper professorial solution to things. But when you've got a kind of insurgent right-wing party like Reform, who don't have any, by the way, behind-the-scenes idea about the deep structural things to fix and the policies and that kind of stuff, but get all the top notes and get the best hits right.
And are apparently reading the room, right. Farage and his lot.
Exactly.
They are.
I just don't think this works. We've actually seen quite a healthy, I think, competition between the Tories and Reform on the policy side of things, pushing each other to the right as they kind of compete. You now got both parties are about to say, let's leave the ECHR, let's deport every illegal immigrant.
But it's taken her 12 months to get there, James.
It's taken way too long. It's taken way too long. But let's hope that gets fixed. There's still a good 4 years or so to go before the next election. And I think on the point about net zero, Kemi did come out months ago. It was her first big policy and say that it's got to stop, which is great. It is impossible to have a rich economy unless you have cheap energy and cheap electricity.
Of course.
It is just impossible, right? Britain, we knew this before anybody else.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, Mike and I laugh about GB Energy run by Jurgen in Doncaster with no staff and not even a desk. But the truth is, if you skin, and we say it every day, we can't afford the interest on the debts we owe. If you've got a natural resource that gives you money, I would go further, though. You won't like this. I don't think she's the right leader. I think that the whole game would be very different if Robert Jenrick had been the new Tory leader. I genuinely believe that. Stolen a march is one thing, but when you're viewed as the people that are reading the room, I think British people right now want to feel they're being heard. And I think Farage is giving them that in the bucket load. Now, you can sit and go, but he doesn't know what it's like to be in government. And the critics will go, he'd be too inexperienced. And the pro-Farage people will go, yeah, but listen, as you said, Uniparty, we've had it for years. We'll do this, they do that. They do that, we'll do this. We're going round in bleeding circles. And maybe the British public are going, do you know what? Yeah, why not? What have we got to lose?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect analysis. my dream scenario, maybe I'll get in trouble for saying it, would be a coalition between the two.
Oh, it
You'd have
wouldn't work.
all the driving zeal of reform, and you've got some good tourists who are left, who know where the bodies are buried, who have the scars on their back of what it's like dealing with the civil service. So when Richard Tice goes in to run a department in 4 years' time and goes, oh, it's OK, they told me that they're doing it now, you'll have some old wizened Tory, maybe me in the back, going, oh, Richard, my sweet summer child, they're lying to you. We've got to do this thing
I reckon
instead.
he'll be the Chancellor.
You think?
Yeah, absolutely. Peter, text 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Morning, JK and James. I dread to think what state this country will be in after we finally kick out this bunch of bleeding hypocrites. And no matter how right-wing Badenoch and Crew sound, the majority of Tory MPs will stop them doing what they promised to do. The only hope for some kind of recovery is reform, who have the will to get things changed. Peter Stone, good morning. He's in Croydon. Again, brave. Morning, Jez. Honestly, mate, if I was an Arsenal fan, I would turn my back on them knowing Two-Tier was a fan. I think that's true. Lost to Liverpool and Keir Starmer's a fan. It's not going well, is it? And Barry... morning, Jez and James. What's brilliant pairings? Only two available. I believe Starmer knows it. And if you're on the ready, we went, oh, don't. Crush your grey. I believe Starmer knows he's in real trouble. I remember he tried to sack Rayner in the past and ended up stuck with her. What a disgrace this government is. It's 7:15. We're live across the UK on the home of common sense and free speech. We taught you. Good morning, Glory. James Price is here. So much this morning. Richard Tice. He's in the new. He's on this show as well. We'll talk about him and the church next on Talk, I think it is. Yeah, thanks.
We must look after them fleeing war-torn France, because France is so well known for being in such a disgrace, and that everyone coming over is in such danger, and them is they them, remember, not he or she. Well, guess what? You can bugger off, you morons. I'm bored of you all, and well done to Ryland for standing up for truth, standing up for the British people. And if any show cancels him, I promise you the backlash of the people of this country will not be worth it to your ratings.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to 11 minutes. He's getting very into that bed now. Oh, welcome back. This is Morning Glory. My name's Jeremy Carl, and this is James Price, looking particularly particularly impressive this morning.
Oh, it's good of you to notice, sir.
Alison's in Poole, in Dorset, very near me. Jezreel Ryland, are you sure Dermot isn't back from his summer break? Ryland, I don't know, but Ryland's not appearing again. Beautiful man. Well done, speaking up for Brits. Lovely show, Jez. In fact, just love talk. Excellent. Steph. I don't know where Steph is. Morning, Jeremy and James. First, the Tories and then Labour have completely broken this bloody country. Nothing will change until we get rid of the blob and actually have a leader with strength who's not afraid even, to take back control. Warwick's from Devon. It could be Devon from Warwick, you know. Good morning, Jez and James. Great start to your show, Jez. Problem with Labour is that with all their degrees from their universities, not one of them has been to the University of Life, where common sense would in fact be an important part of being a politician. Jenny. Last Labour government, we had 2 Jags Prescott, now we've got 3 Pads Rayner.
Oh, that's so good.
Do you hear what Mike said about her last week? You must have, this was genius. Before he went away, he said she's the Minister of Housing. Herself. Carolyn, Faith! Hey! Faith, good morning. Oh, people will be going, he's not a serious journalist. Whatever. If the government do happen to collapse in the next 12 months, surely Reform will not have enough candidates yet, even if they are ahead in the polls. Interesting. Dave from Cheadle. Do you know where Cheadle is? Manchester.
Yeah.
Feels like we're in a never-ending episode of The Thick of It, but God, we could do with a Malcolm Tucker. I don't know whether that's a rude... I felt as I was reading that I was genuinely in trouble there. I'm safe, though. Fantastic. Can we read about this? Can we just do this appalling story on the front, the Express? Because I speak to Blexley regularly, and this stuff drives me insane. I was brought up under Tory governments, and it was about law and order. Now we seem to have police who are fearing of criminals, and criminals get away. The Daily Express today demands action to halt the shoplifting crisis that is costing stores more than £2.2 billion a year. We know it to be a fact that if you steal less than £200, the police ain't coming, and yet if you write some horrible words, the police will arrive in their droves.
Look, I don't understand why politicians are not incredibly hard on crime. Right, where are the
votes?
It's
an absolute vote winner, JP.
Right, where are the votes on being soft on it? And I think it's like so much that it's gone wrong. It comes out of the left from the United States, because the United States has this big cultural power, and it's become the thing on the left in America. Say, oh no, you can't blame the criminals. You know, they need those trainers they've stolen to feed their families.
You see,
right?
This is Keir Starmer, fresh from the football clip. Just so you're aware of it. This is him whilst he was in opposition. This is him about shoplifting. Have a listen. Don't believe it, but have a listen.
So today I'm putting shoplifters on notice. You might get away with it under this weak Tory government. But if Labour takes power, we won't stand by while crime takes over our streets. We'll put 13,000 extra neighbourhood police on the beat. We'll scrap the shoplifters' charter, the £200 rule that stops the police investigating theft in your workplace. And we'll legislate to make sure assaulting and abusing shop workers is a standalone criminal offence, because you deserve to feel safe at work.
I mean, you have to hand it to him, because he managed to delude most of the 34% of this country that voted for him, not the other 6. Another flagrant lie. They've done nothing about that. But you're right. As a political animal, you would be saying to your minister, this is a vote winner. This is something to grab by the bits and go with it. No, not a chance.
The most right-wing member of the Reform Party or the Tory Party is to the left of the British public on crime. If you go around Parliament, if you go outside Parliament, you will see huge barriers, huge numbers of police, huge amounts of security. Fair enough, right? We've let a lot of people into this country who want to kill everybody, and Parliament is a great target. Why do the rest of us have to suffer the weak on crime and weak on police policies, because these people who are safe from it, hidden behind all of those barriers, don't have to worry about it? I don't think we have to go as far as some other countries, because the problem isn't as bad as some other countries, but we should look at what they're doing. So I always use the example of El Salvador, the little country in Central America. It was the most dangerous place on earth, Jeremy, most dangerous place on earth. More murders than anywhere else. What happens? They elect a guy who goes, OK, I'm not going to do that anymore. And he locked up all the criminals. It was quite easy, because they all had tattoos over their face saying how many people they killed.
You can't do that because Rayner's got a tattoo. You'll have to lock her up. But you're right.
It's now the safest place in the Western Hemisphere. It's safer than America and Canada now. And all they had to do was lock up all the wrong-uns. It's not rocket science.
I love that phrase, wrong-uns. That's the front of the experiment. Can I also just say, by the way, good morning to this is a good one, Jason from Bristol for you, JP. Do you think the British public could take the government to the ECHR over this migrant hotel scandal?
It's a great idea. I do think there should be more private prosecutions across the board, and I do think that the way that the government lawyers are having to do all this stuff, it just looks increasingly
the Ben lawyers,
desperate.
Hermer and his Ben friends,
like
the Justice. What was it, Mr. Bain? Justice Bain.
I do think that the argument that the government lawyers used on Friday, and we said about this half an hour or so ago, that the rights of asylum seekers and immigrants are more important than the rights of British people. That was basically the argument that they put before the court. Let's just replay that every day, forever and ever.
No, let's just repeat that really slowly.
Let's force Labour to make their lawyers make these cases, befriend the ECHR if we have to, and keep going with it and see what the public think about that.
Migrants staying at the Bell Hotel in Epping have thanked Keir Starmer. Honestly, this is... why'd you give me this? Because it's going to wind me up. My wife's just texted me. Little Iris has got a snotty nose. Bless her. She's watching. Love you, Rissy. This winds my wife up as well. They thanked Starmer after a controversial ruling allowed them to stay there. I can't read it. They're thanking Keir Starmer, and he's happy about that. So you are, and I hate the word, people hate me using the word, I don't hate the word. So your indigenous population who took to the streets very calmly, mothers and fathers, predominantly mothers, saying, actually, we're concerned it's next to a school, a 14-year-old was allegedly sexually assaulted. You're more interested in following some bleeding charter that says that the rights of migrants who have escaped war-torn France are more important than the people of this country who live in the communities, pay their taxes and elected you. You're toast, you total... I nearly said it again. It's true. I don't understand how anybody in any sphere thinks that that's making sense to anybody.
You're completely right. And again, it goes back, I've said this again and again, and I'll keep on saying it, that the blob and the civil servants and the bureaucracy that surrounds the politicians, that prevents them from understanding this obvious point. You would think that even if the politicians didn't care about the country and did only care about the asylum seekers and rather than the people of this country, what is the one thing you would assume a politician would want to do is be re-elected. They don't even seem to want to do that because of all this madness that we're saying and the anger that people are rightly filling up and down the country. So what is breaking that feedback mechanism? It is this blob that says that the rights of asylum seekers are more important than the rights of British kids.
When Farage and Tice is on the show later, they say we'll take the blob on. The cynics will say it's not possible. Is it? Is it possible to take them on?
Yes, but you have to do all the prep work now, right?
Why didn't the Tories take them on then? Serious question.
I think, well, there was the first part was the coalition government in 2010, and the Lib Dems didn't want it to happen, and the deficit and the economy was so important that took up all the energy, and then Brexit took up a load of energy, and then COVID. So there were not the opportunities to do it at the start of any of those parliaments. You look now at when Sue Gray was brought in, remember her by Keir Starmer?
First 100 days, she'd gone before the 100 days was up.
And she was supposed to have done all the planning work, but of course she was one of the top civil servants. So was it in her interest to smash the whole thing up? So for Reform or a Conservative Party that comes in that gets itself sorted, or a coalition of the two, the work needs to be being done now. And there are some smart people doing it, but everybody needs to say that this is the most important thing, because if you can't smash that up, we can't get any of the rest of it done.
Completely agree.
It will always get blocked.
Oliver's hacked off now, my son, because I said good morning to Iris. He's now awake. Ollie, good morning to you. Bless your heart. We're going to have a bit of a laugh before we go to the news. Quickly, there's some text. Jeff, morning, gang. The only way to sort out the problems in Europe and the UK is to import Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance. He's in France. You see, he's buggered off already. Morning, Jess. The government will take anything that is thrown at them because they have 4 more years of power. That is all they care about. Lovely to hear you in the morning, says Anne. H in Lancashire. Rayner Bint gives northern women a bad name. All right. Steve Smedley. How the hell did I do that? Starmer says he's going to take on Farage. It's not Nigel he's taking on. It's tens of millions of patriotic British people who are sick of being abused by a pathetic, treacherous, lying, low-life Prime Minister and his cronies. The genie is out of the bottle and he can't jail and silence the whole country. Good morning to Rich. Morning, JK. Great to have you that's on the way to pay our taxes. It's not work anymore. By the way, a week in NYC with Mike would be the highlight of most people's lives, including mine. And that's from Rich. That's very interesting. Very quickly, I've only got a minute. Britain has welcomed Turkish transgender drag queens on special visas for global talents. The global talent visa permits recipients to stay in the UK for 5 years along with their dependents and is intended to bring the very best creatives to the country. Applicants must have claimed their artist merit endorsed by the Art Council before visas are ultimately signed off by the Home Office. So we're now allowing Turkish transgender drag queens to come to the country. Do they get houses as well, or just free makeup?
That's absolutely astonishing.
Astonishing.
Isn't it? The visa stuff needs to be really, really looked at because it's being abused left, right, and centre. The care worker visa through to the talent visa, the whole thing. And when anybody tells you, "Oh, we need it for the economics," right? The country's ageing, all the rest of it. We're a few years away from Elon Musk being able to give you a personalised robot butler, right? They can go work in the fields, they can drive your car, they can do the laundry for you, can do whatever else. We don't need infinite numbers of immigrants coming in to do that kind of work anymore.
You are a legend to have got out of bed. We love having on the amazing James Price. After the news at 7, Isabel Oakeshott, 0344 499 1000. This is Morning Glory. News is next.
We've just been talking in the office here about how many of us have been attacked at some point or other by some form of flying beast or any wildlife. I mean, so we'll take your stories this morning.
Hello, this story is concerning wildlife. It's concerning a rhino.
A rhino? Blimey.
Right? Yeah,
okay.
rhino. I used to live in Kenya when I was about 5 or 6 years old.
Okay.
And we were in this wildlife park in a grey Morris Minor. This rhino started chasing us. There's me and my sister in the back seat.
Right.
It was like something out of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
We were turning around saying, "Believe it, Dad. Just put your foot down, Dad. We're in a field." Put your foot down, this rhino was chasing us.
One from Mark here in Derby. Went on holiday for our first romantic holiday to Judicial years ago. Decided to take my girl into a petting zoo. I got a bag of food to feed the animals. A giant goat then went for me, putting its front legs over my shoulders and proceeding to headbutt me over a fence into one of the pens, covering me in the food and making my nose bleed. I got out of the pen, then the goat and all his mates attacked me again, sending me running and screaming like a girl out of the zoo, with my girlfriend rolling with laughter on the floor.
A tarantula climbed up the bottom of the bed on the sheet.
Yeah.
And it walked all the way up. It's eyeball to eyeball.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, what am I going to do when it climbs over my face? But then a miracle happened. It raised its 2 front legs and waved them around. And then it turned around and walked down the side of the sheet.
Boris Johnson been attacked by an ostrich. The former PM was enjoying a safari trip with his family when the bird leaned into his car and went oi oi and pecked his hand. In footage shared online, he quickly jerked from the ostrich. Don't dirty minds away from the ostrich, and shouted, "Oh, cripes, get hell," before driving off. And so I just set it out there. Have you been attacked by an animal? When I was about 7, says Trevor Jenkins, on holiday in Spain in the 70s, a monkey pulled my long hair. It was long because it was the 70s. I was in floods of tears. And as the family car drove out the car park, an elephant ripped off the car mirror. We got the message. Spanish animals aren't to be trusted. Jeremy, Brittany here from the United States. I was spurred by a rooster in my right foot.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Biblical proportions. A very good morning. It's the 1st of September. A pinch and a punch and all that stuff, especially if you're in a... No. Anyway, JK for MG's in New York City, having a well-deserved break, and you're unlucky people. You're stuck with me for the next week. If you'd like to be part of the debate this morning, as ever, contact the A-team are in bar me. 0344 499 1000. Damien, not Darren, I got his name wrong. 0344 499 1000. WhatsApps. We like voice notes. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Dennis in Mitcham, good morning. He says, I'm 75 years of age and have seen this once great country slide towards Marxism. Keir Starmer and his comrades disgust me. It's all going on today. We've got Angela Rayner, you know, 3 pads Rayner, the Minister for Housing herself. She's in trouble. They're all gearing up to have a go. Labour civil war fueling Rayner sleaze crisis on the front of the Daily Mail. But don't worry. Keir Starmer, your elected Prime Minister, front of the mirror, I'll defeat Farage's scare tactics. There it is. To give you an idea of the lack of confidence that I personally have in Keir Starmer, I'm going to play very quickly before we speak to Isabel Oakeshott. Across the weekend, like on the back of, you know, the government taking aim at our very own people in Epping and siding with migrants against everything that seems to be going on. Tax rises, civil unrest, lack of promises. You know, what do they say? No income tax, no... Well, you've raised everything. Keir Starmer thought that he would address the British people. I wanted him to stand up and say, listen, I'll be listening, I'm going to do stuff that's constructive. This is what he put out on TikTok.
Before your wedding day, everyone says it's going to be the best day of your life. And yeah, you think, well, I'm not sure. What about when Arsenal won the double?
He's the coolest man in European football. Ever since I was a G.
I'm really sorry. I know, obviously. What? 0344 419 1000. We say a very good morning. I needed to calm me down. I need to be taken into a room with a wet towel. Isabel Oakeshott talks international. Is it me? What the bloody hell's that all about? That's our Prime Minister, our country at a seminal moment, and that's what he thinks. Diss the wife in public. That'll go down well and fuel any more rumours.
Yeah, I mean, once again, absolutely clueless, isn't he? As you said, he should be out on Downing Street saying, I've listened, I get it, you know, I really don't want to see more of these protests, but I understand why people are taking to the streets, and here's what I'm going to do about it. And it seems that Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, who's been sort of missing without trace,
seen her,
is about to pop up today and thrill us all with some new measures that they're going to take, tinkering around the edges of the asylum appeals system and also reducing the vast number of people that you're automatically entitled to bring into our country once you've been granted asylum. As always, way too little, too late. People are not listening anymore, I'm afraid.
And that's the point. I mean, I said it all day. I mean, Mrs. Bowles, you make a really good point. On the 8th of August, because we played this clip last week, she said, I'm going to give... She didn't sound like that, obviously. I'm going to give daily updates. That was 3.5 weeks ago. Today will be the first time we've heard from her. It's really interesting. There's been so much since we last spoke. And, of course, we came off air on Friday in Morning Glory. And then that dreadful... I was at home, that sort of result about the government, the Home Office, trying to go against the people of Epping, and they won. We'll talk about the judge in just a tick. But, I mean, most people I know said, is that our government going against its own people? We had the unglorious sight yesterday on Sky News with the excellent Trevor Phillips. Bridget Phillipson, awful woman. This is what she said about the whole debacle. And listen, Isabel, listen. She favours asylum seekers. Listen to this.
It is about a balance of rights. When people come to this country and claim asylum, we have a responsibility as a government to assess their cases and to process them. For those who have got a clear right to be here, for those who have evidenced what they are facing in terms of persecution, refugees, then that will be decided. Where they don't, then we will take action to remove people from the country. So we do have a responsibility to process those cases. And yes,
and
to
the
provide,
responsibility to those asylum seekers is more important than the responsibility to those who live locally.
Our responsibility to those who live locally is also important as well.
Is also important, Isabel. We have a clear responsibility. So, before you go anywhere, so then she was pushed further. Do you agree with the judge's judgment, for want of a better phrase? Have a listen.
Do you agree with what your lawyers said, or don't you?
Yes, of course we do.
I mean, honestly, again, what am I in politics? Nothing. Are they not listening to the British people? Do they think that millions of people are far right? Because I think millions of people are just right.
What an absolute vote loser that lady is. Any opposition party just needs to play that interview again and again and again. My God, it got my hackles up, didn't it, you?
Yes.
I mean, she looks so frozen in complete lack of empathy, a complete lack of grasp of what it is that's going on in our country. She doesn't get it. None of them get it. And how they don't get it, I don't know, because all they need to do is actually go and talk to people, go round the city centres and the town centres that are ravaged by the impact of mass uncontrolled immigration. Go and look at the effects of losing control of our borders on communities, and then maybe you'll get it. I don't think you get it just by sitting in the Palace of Westminster or in Whitehall in your Whitehall department. You need to get out there.
I completely agree. And of course, when we went off air on Friday, when the judgment came through, I didn't know this, but it turns out that Lord Justice Bean, that's quite funny, Mr. Bean, who delivered Friday's landmark Court of Appeal ruling, turns turns out that he was chairman of the Socialist Fabian Society between 89 and 90. He's a mate of Lord Hermer, that disgrace of an Attorney General, another one of those left-wing socialist human rights lawyers, all tied into Starmer. So we're sitting here, aren't we, on Friday and Thursday and the weeks before going, any government would want the people to be heard. And he sat there the whole time, Starmer, rubbing his hands, know that one of his lefty socialist Fabian Society loving mates was going to do him a deal. But again, politically, you're far more switched on than me. Do they not care what the people of Epping and further afield now feel, which is very simply this: you picked some migrants over us. We're supposed to be your indigenous voting public. You picked migrants, illegal immigrants over us. That's a fact.
I mean, this wasn't a victory for the government. There was no, it was a no-win situation for them, because had the judge upheld the injunction, they would have had an immediate practical problem of where to put all these.
Well, that you say there's no way to win. That's because they've come up with bugger all answers to make it work. That's because they've been completely useless.
Completely, but their temporary victory, as it were, is no victory at all, because they've just showed what side they're on. And that is a political disaster, actually. There is a whole other phase to this court battle. It begins again in mid-October. Yeah. But I don't expect, just my instinct is strings will be pulled, you know, influence will be brought to bear, and this is not going to succeed, in my opinion, this legal case. But nonetheless, at least now we know where we all stand. You know, at least the government has shown its true colours, and they are not the colours of the British flag.
I was quite interested, actually. Yesterday evening in my little town, I went in to get some cash from the cash point, and the roundabout was painted white and red. Fantastic, although that'll probably get whoever did that arrested. So we've got that, the migrant situation. There's another story today about the migrant, which I just want to do with you quickly, which is frightening. Asylum seekers have been put in new £300,000 townhouses in a Suffolk village, complete with ensuite bathrooms, electric vehicle charging points and an underfloor heating. The 4 privately owned 3-bedroom properties have a rental value of £1,200 a month. They've been leased to public service company Serco, working on behalf of the Home Office. So if you're in that Suffolk village that we're not naming, I don't know why, and you're going to work, you just pass people who get to live in nice houses, probably better than yours, for absolutely nothing. And as John in Portsmouth pointed out just now, people that, Jez, don't live to work anymore. They work to live. Great show. I feel like a second-class citizen. That's it. That's what the British people think.
Well, you kind of are a second-class citizen. I mean, in other countries, they do this completely the other way round, and they actually actively and unashamedly prioritise their own citizens in the allocation of public resources and services that those citizens have paid for. That's just common sense. Yeah. You know, that ensures that you don't have divided societies in which one side resents the other. If you were born and, you know, you grew up in the UK and you've contributed into the system, in my opinion, you should be prioritised over people who've just rocked up on a boat illegally and frankly are pretty unlikely really to be fleeing war and terror.
But that's my point. If you listen to Phillipson, did you hear her? She says, you know, we've got a clear conscience of people who are escaping persecution. Is the woman stupid or thick or just deranged? Because these are illegal immigrants coming from France where there's no war-torn problems at all. It's just that we do more than the French do. And I keep saying it on this show and I'm going to be thrown off. If I was in a country where my family were being bombed, I'd bring them with me. I wouldn't leave them there to be blown to smithereens. I'd bring them with me. Plus the first country I got to where there weren't bombs raining down on me head, I'd stay. We're a soft touch, and people have realised we are. And people like Phillips and all these people are so divorced from reality, and it will bite them on the bum. But you know what's worrying so many people is that in another 4 years, where are we going to be? We're laughed at on the international stage. We're skint. We're going, no doubt we'll go cap in hand to the IMF soon because our Chancellor can't add up. It's frightening. It is. It's the first time I've ever, as a father and a grandfather, felt frightened. I mean that.
No, I genuinely think it is frightening. You know, we can all see the impact already just of a year of this Labour government basically not just continuing what went on previously, but failing to stop it getting worse. And I really think a lot of people fear for the future they are genuinely worried about the disintegration of our society. And I put a clip on social media over the weekend.
I hope it was better than Starmer's one. His was crap.
Well, it's had 1 million views, so that might be more than Starmer's is garnering. What it was a protest in Knightsbridge, so a very swanky part of London, a protest that was being conducted entirely in bellowing Arabic through 4 big loud speakers, and it was essentially an all-male protest outside the Sudanese embassy or some Sudanese building there. And it was all being done in another language. And what the hell is that all about? You know, public protests in foreign languages in the centre of our cities are by their very nature divisive. And what is the point of them? This is Britain. People need to be able to, if you're having a public protest, surely the point of it is to persuade other people or the authorities of what your argument is. It's no good conducting it in a foreign language. And I think that so many voters are horrified by all of this. What has become of our city centres?
Yeah, completely. I couldn't agree more. Let's get on. We've talked about the incompetence of this government. Let's talk about, because I know she's a friend of yours and we don't want to insult her too much, because I know you and Angela Rayner are quite close, aren't you?
I don't think that's the case.
You like to share a Leaf-Frau Milch bottle occasionally. Front of the Daily Mail. Labour civil war fueling Rayner sleaze crisis. We know that 3 pads Rayner, the Minister for Housing herself, has got a new pad down in Hove. Nobody seems to know how she afforded it, where she got the deposit, whether she's trying to screw the stamp duty. God knows. I mean, the whole thing's a sleazy. There she is. That's that lovely picture. Tattoo, tab. There he is. Is that the ginger boyfriend? I've no idea. Anyway, here's the thing I want to ask you. So over the weekend, obviously there's questions about apparently the boyfriend, if that is Sam, the ex, I don't know. He's apparently associated with the company that got a massive government loan. Then it comes out that the grandmother, the single mum who did so well from the little Stockport council estate, she's used a wealth management consultancy company to try and work out how to buy this. And on top of it all, front of the Mail, which is really interesting, is that Labour's civil war. They're all at each other's throats. This is probably opponents of hers briefing against her because they're all sniffing blood because Starmer's on his last legs. I mean, talk about meltdown. They've only been there 12 months.
I actually think Big Ange is in quite some serious trouble over this.
When you say big, what do you mean by big? Are you...
Well, what I mean is she's big in personality. Oh. I think calling her Big Ange is actually less insulting than you calling her a grandmother. Quite clearly, she is not. Maybe she's technically a grandmother.
I'm a grandfather.
I think it's demeaning to her and her status to call her a grandmother. She is a deputy prime minister, and she certainly doesn't look like a granny to me. So can we agree that is... I think that's a bit sexist, actually, Jeremy.
You're joking.
I'm just going to come out with that. I think calling Angela Rayner a grandmother is sexist. You can't define her like that.
Oh my God, that's very... I stand corrected, Isabella. Well, she is a grandmother and I'm a grandfather. So if I call myself a grandfather, is that sexist?
If I called you a grandfather, you'd be a bit grumpy, I reckon.
No, I wouldn't. I love it because I like being a grandfather.
Imagine if I came on the radio this morning and said, "Morning, Grandad." How would you feel about that?
Oh, I love you, Isabella Oakeshott. She's in trouble, though, isn't she, mate? Seriously, she is in trouble.
I think this has been really damaging. You know, she got away with whatever that other row was about a year ago on the council tax. She got away with that. This is so dodgy. I mean... When you're in her position, you've got to just think, how does this look? It doesn't matter whether it's technically okay or not technically okay. It just looks really, really irregular. That's me putting it.
No, you're absolutely right. And what it does is, which is why it fuels that article in the Mail this morning, that it might be people dropping her in it who are scared by her popularity. But you go back. Now, this isn't sexist to say. She's the darling of the unions. They made a big thing, didn't they, out of this is the single mother from Stockport who's fought away. But I have to say, when she first arrived on the scene, I thought fair play to her. But she's turned out, and this is absolutely correct to say, to be as big a scrounger and taker advantage of situations as she spent her... Well, she was the one that called the Tories scum. She was the one that said everybody had their noses in the trough. Turns out she's as bad as the rest of them, if not worse. I think that's where the anger comes from with Rayner. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think you're right about the politics of this. She is quite clearly, or was before this, the front runner to replace Keir Starmer. I certainly think she poses the biggest political threat to the popularity of reform in some of those...
You do?
Yeah, in some of those northern seats, yes. I mean, what reform supporters would probably say is actually she's not that much of a threat because she's hopeless with numbers. She is not credible on the economic side of things and would quite quickly be found out on that. But nonetheless, I think she's pretty formidable and she's clearly the front runner, or was. And there is a lot of politics going on behind the scenes here about those who would quite like that job themselves and are probably briefing against her.
Isn't it interesting how quickly it becomes that, from the euphoria of 12 months ago and having that amazing sort of mandate, to be fair, on the back of everybody had stopped listening to the Tories, that within 12 months there this dire position in the polls, there's infighting and people are already positioning themselves. I mean, you made the point about financially. I mean, the other great story today is Rachel Reeves. 40% of Rachel Reeves, people asked in the electorate, don't want her to raise taxes, and most of this country thinks she's incompetent at her job. And you look at her, and you look at Phillipson that we played in education, you look at Rayner with her 3 pads, and you think, this is seriously talentless. This cabinet is so unimpressive. And listen, we had the Tories for 14 years, and they weren't that impressive, but this lot, all of them seem to be out of their depth and just wedded to ideology, Isabel.
It really is shocking, and I think there's a lot of nervous anticipation of this budget. You know, we're hearing this, just the ever louder drumbeat of more tax rises. I mean, I'm surprised that only 6 in 10 people think it's unacceptable.
I know, that's true, yeah. Where are the other 4? What's wrong with you? Yeah.
What is wrong with them? I mean, these are people who only probably benefit from yet more allocation of resources from wealth creators to people who are just the takers. That's what I can only imagine, because carrying on taxing your way out of a hole just doesn't work. And I don't know how Rachel Reeves gets out of this, because evidently her colleagues don't want any cuts. You know, we've seen that with the welfare.
Impossible job. But if you win an election, somebody said, somebody said that the clips you and Mike play on this show, you should give to Reform for their campaign. We've already this morning played a clip where he said, you know, we're going to get rid of shoplifters. We're going to keep council tax. It's never going to rise. There's going to be no VAT. I mean, they have been duplicitous on almost every front. And that's why Farage and his team are doing well. And even Bednock's found her voice, well, just once. And you think to yourself, what I don't get, Isabel, is how incompetent these people are. I mean, so lacking, not even in empathy. They're just not listening. And Nigel Farage has managed to say to the British people, I hear you. And that's why at this moment he's being lauded, I think.
In a sense, it's just not that difficult. That's why I don't get why they don't get this, because it isn't that difficult to connect with voters on this issue. The issue isn't complicated. This isn't some kind of, you know, fine-tuned, rarefied, you know, deeply complicated economic concept. This is just a bunch of illegals coming across the channel in boats and being put in luxury accommodation. And it's really, really pissing people off. And that isn't hard to understand, is it?
No, not at all, Isabel Oakeshott. We're loving you on this Monday morning. Can I ask you out?
Where are we going, Jezza?
What are you doing on Saturday the 15th of November?
Not sure I'm going out with Grandad, sorry.
I don't mind being a granddad. What's wrong with a bit of granddad bashing? I think, listen, she is a grandma. Listen, what are you doing on Saturday the 15th of November?
Oh, you've got your show. I've heard about this. Is it? I bet it's going to be a sellout. So
it's the Shepherd's Bush Empire, ladies and gentlemen. Jez and Mike's World of Common Sense. Mike Graham and Jeremy Kyle, one night only. Saturday the 15th at the Shepherd's Bush Empire. There are just a few tickets left, and I mean this. Ticketmaster via the app or ticketmaster.com. I am going to tell you later who the special guests are going to be. There are going to be some massive surprises. I could point out that's why Mike Graham's in America America trying to get... Well, anyway, that's another story. I can't get... I'll give you a freebie, though, Isabel. I'm not giving out any free tickets, but I'm going to give you one if you'd like to come along.
Can I make a prediction? This is not going to be one night only. I think this is going to be quite a run of events.
I'm slightly worried, though, but as a granddad, do you think I'll get through more than one?
That is an issue. I think you need to start getting your fitness up. You know, these days you need to work harder for the same results.
Work harder? Me? Get fit? No, I'm having a bacon sandwich. Listen, I love having you on. We thank you so much indeed. I'll never call Angela Rayner a grandmother again. Yeah, well. We love you, Isabel Oakeshott. Thank you very much indeed. Talks International Editor 724. We're live across the United Kingdom. Morning Glory is on. What do you make of it all? It's an absolute debacle. Rayner's got 3 houses. The Labour Party are infighting. Asylum seekers get nice houses. And this is driving me nuts. It's fallen out my ear. Back in 3.
Will be in our policy for illegal immigration. We will arrest, detain and deport people that enter this country illegally. There will be no need for hotels like this. We will have detention centres and we will have 5 flights a day. And I tell you something, we've even gone as far to say that we will have a spare aircraft by the RAF. So should any of those charter flights go tech, there will absolutely be no disruption to our deportation policy. We will leave the ECHR. Reform UK is the last hope this country has.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning. Welcome back to Morning Glory. 7:28. I've managed to run 100 yards, do a wee, get back, put my wires back in, and everything's fine. Isabel Oakeshott, we love her. Great of her to be on. I'm a grandad. 0344 499 1000 is your telephone number for Morning Glory, the home of common sense and free speech. JK for MG, just for 3 more days. He's in America, don't worry about it. People actually asking about the show that we were talking about. I'm just going to put this back up. It's a one night only. Mike Grove and Jeremy Carl's World of Common Sense. It's madness out there. Come and spend 2 hours in our company. Saturday the 15th of November at the Shepherd's Bush Empire. Just a few tickets left now. Went on sale on Friday. You can do it on the Ticketmaster app or ticketmaster.com. I promise you some amazing surprises, real honesty, and lots of clips, including Ethiopia. Sean's on voice note. Go.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby here. Well, I don't see why anyone's surprised by what Bridget Phillipson says. You know, this is just the Labour line. Everyone knows they care more about immigrants than the rest of us. But it makes me wonder, you know, what's the point of going out to work every day? You know, I'm going to get taxed to the eyeballs again in a month or so. And just what's the point? You know, I've already been in since 4:30. I've got a 7-hour drive now. You know, it's absolutely mental. People just come here to get everything. And yet again, we just get nothing. Absolutely nothing. Great show, Jeremy.
You know what? On a serious note, we go, you know, like rocket fuel through this show. Just let's take 10 seconds, 20 seconds and think about that. Up since 4:30, 7-hour drive, 3.5 hours each way to support his family and his kids. And Sean, yeah, rightly hacked off, rightly feeling down in the dumps, rightly wondering why. And I've said this so many times. He goes to work, never asks for anything, pays his tax, can't have this, can't have that, and looks and goes, hold on a minute. You lefties. Why are people who shouldn't be getting stuff getting so much? What are your thoughts on this? 0344 499 1000. Thank you for your text, 87222. Rita. Great show. I'm an expat living in South Africa. Great. A Turkish drag artist has been given a visa, but my 19-year-old granddaughter wanted to go for a 3-week holiday and she's been denied. Yep, Tony's in Southampton. Morning, Tone. If the male illegal immigrants in the Epping Bell Hotel are so safe for women to walk by without fear, why are no female illegal immigrants staying in that hotel? Or is it not safe enough with them? Or did they not come with the illegal migrant men who came here simply to game the system and commit crime and make money? Because, as I keep saying, Tony in Southampton, if you were terrified for what was going to happen to your wife, what would you do? Oh, yeah, you bring your wife with you. Sorry, calling a woman who is a grandmother is not sexist at all. Don't take it, Jeremy lad, says John in Liverpool. She's a bloody grandmother. Sarah in Peterborough, great show. Love the energy. Me and my kids have been proudly putting up flags around our area. You heathens! You will be arrested. People stop and show support, put their thumbs up. People are proud but just scared. I feel the country's on the verge of something either great or terrible, and it is scary. Dex in Wisbech. Do you know where Wisbech is? It's that flat bit in Norfolk, yeah? I used to work to strive. Now I work to survive. Wow. Deborah's in North Yorkshire. Morning, Jez. Bridget P. is the new Richard III. She seems to be morphing into Rachel from Accounts. Currently, with regard to this country, I too despair. Hev? How can he be called Hev? Morning, Jess. He's from Kent, or she's from Kent. Starmer is trying comedy, then crosses his arms. No good body language. You do himself a favour, at least stopped all the illegal migrants. I don't understand. Yeah, it's useless. Diane. I was listening to a guy from Canada. They were having trouble with South Americans getting women pregnant to stay in Canada. So what did? They changed the law. Isn't that what governments are supposed to do? Finally, for now, Glenn's in Leeds. What is it with this Chairman Mao dark blue shirt on that TikTok video? It makes him look a bit sinister. And what the hell is that tippy-tappy music on the video? What is going on? Glenn is referring, if you've just tuned in the midst of this country being, frankly, on its arse, with all that's going on, Keir Starmer released this on TikTok over the weekend. Have a watch.
Before your wedding day, everyone says it's going to be the best day of your life. And, yeah, you think, well, I'm not sure. What about when Arsenal won the double?
He's the coolest man in European football. Ever since I was a G.
Oh, hello, I'm back. That'll inspire you, won't it? Keir Starmer. Finally, we've done that. Right, listen, the big news story in the front of the Sun. I love... Where is the Sun? Oh, somebody nicked my paper. Oh, no, there it is. Look at that. Camilla whacked a groper in the Ghoulies. This is fantastic. Honestly, Matt Wilkinson, what a headline. Now, we couldn't get Matt who wrote that because he's far too busy, so we thought, well, we'll have to try and get what we can for the money we've got. A very good morning to Rupert Bell. It says here, Talk's royal correspondent, not racing correspondent today. He's the royal correspondent, and you're very welcome to the show, Rupert Bell. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. I can't come to your gig on the 15th of November because I will be at Cheltenham for one of their big days of the winter. So.
Well, you're lying. You're lying to me, and I'll tell you for why. Because Sir Graham and I are going racing during the day and making it to the theatre in the evening, Belly. So why don't you just put aside your apparent disdain for that gig with me and Mike and just be honest?
Well, because I haven't not going to have a helicopter to get me there.
Moving on, 7:35, front of the Sun today. This is brilliant. Queen Camilla whacks sleazy pervert in the privates with her shoe after he tried to grope her on a London train. Front of the Sun today. Matt Wilkinson.
Well, they haven't held back with the headline, but this refers to an incident that has happened, and according to all the reports, when the current Queen was 16 or 17, travelling on a train to Paddington, and this man behaved clearly inappropriately, and as her way of dealing with it, took off her shoe as told and fought back and actually then just whacked him in the unmentionables or in the Ghoulies, according to the Sun. And
well, I find that offensive because I've only got one Ghoulie, but don't worry, that's fine.
Okay, well, be proud of the one. And
doesn't know what to say.
Well, I came up with something anyway pretty quickly. But more importantly, then when she got off the train, she went up to a policeman and got this person arrested. And it does actually, taking away from the headline, really reflects, given this story, why she is so passionate about incidents like this and helping women in these circumstances. And it's been one of her sort of cause célèbre since she's become Queen. And she's not frightened about talking about it and helping people. So I think this actually does underline where the sort of her passion for this project.
I get that. I get that, and I said it earlier, and I also said that, you know, like many of us, I was very cynical when Diana was alive, and she was painted in a very inglorious way. But actually, she's earned our respect by getting her head down and working so hard for the country. But my question would be this: why now? Why is this being released now? This story? Yes, it's a positive story, but why now?
That I can't say. It's obviously come out through books and stories and sort of hearsay. Boris Johnson with his communication secretary at the time, Budgetary, and I think as a result, the story got told. And I'm sure it actually is just one of those things that gives a backstory. Why it hasn't come out before? There's probably a degree of privacy on the Queen's behalf. Felt she didn't want to draw attention to it, just wanted to get on with it because she's no fuss kind of person, doesn't want any attention above and beyond what she is doing. She knows that what her role in with the current royal family is, and just wants to get on with her job. And that is what she has proved over the last few months, the year when she, obviously since the diagnosis of the cancer of her husband, she has sort of stepped up to the plate. And I think that really reflects her way of operating, the sort of Princess Anne way, just get on with the job.
Keep calm and carry on. The job is bigger than anything. Absolutely. Those basic royal rules that were so espoused by our late great Queen. Also in the news this morning, great piece there in the Sun. Also in the Sun, allegations. Prince Andrew, honest to God. Have I told you that where my parents used to live, they don't live there now because they're dead, there was a road called Andrews Close, and the residents seriously wanted it removed. Allegations Prince Andrew kept in touch with Jeffrey Epstein until 2015. Guarantee, it says in the Sun today, he'll never return to royal life. He was never going to return to royal life, was he ever? He's done. Too much water.
Unfortunately, for him, looking at it from his perspective, he can't get back to where he wants to get back to.
No, not a chance.
And the more the Epstein issue is, it's constraining him, and he is by his own doing. You know, he said in the interview that after the first time he never had any contact. What is appearing from coming out in these articles that there were email conversations suggesting that Epstein and Andrew were still in communication. And this is the problem for him. He just thinks it's going to go away. No, it's not.
It's got no antennae, has he? He's about as bad judging royal things as his Labour government is in judging the mood of the people. It's just done. Honestly, I understand the Sun right in the story, but there's no way back for him. Never. Not at all.
Never. And also the book that's coming out about Virginia Giuffre suggesting, what was going on in these parties back in the day when the photograph, came about, and what was the stories, and it all seems very unseemly. And for Andrew, it just now means he is even more a prisoner in the Royal Lodge and won't be able to do anything. But it's all his own doing. This is the problem, because, as you say, his inability to read the room is what put him into this situation, and it is no way back for him. And the British public will not have it, and that's the problem for him. And it's the problem for the royal family, because they are you talk about William, the working royals are all of grandparents' generation, the King, Andrew, then not Andrew, Edward, and also Anne. And then we've got William, and then he is on his own. And Andrew has created this problem, as has Harry. So the royal family, the Epstein issue, has created yet more problems for the working royal members of the royal family.
It's great having you on, Belle, but that's the end. Do you see what I did there? We appreciate it. Do you see Christian gets that? Yes, it's over. Rupert Bell, today our royal correspondent, tomorrow our racing correspondent. Helen, on 4 more years of Labour.
Good morning, Jeremy. This is Helen from Lincolnshire. A genuine question. What do we do about this? This country and the people within it, we cannot stand 4 more years of this. There will be nothing left. It's nonsense, it's incompetence at every turn. But worse than that, we now have a government turning on and acting against its own people. All the best and brightest people, if they have any sense, they will leave. They will just decide, I'm going to give it a go somewhere else because I've nothing to lose now. I run a small business, good jobs for local people. It's getting harder by the second, and my own personal standard of living as a company director is getting poorer and poorer. And even I'm sitting thinking, if I knew how to do something else, if I thought there was something else that I could do, I would do it. I would cut my losses and I would do it.
Helen, couldn't agree more. Really appreciate that voice note. 0344 499 1000. You can ring and speak to Damien. You can send a voice note to Christian. You can then text 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Next, Karen McIver, branch secretary in Epping Forest Reform UK, responding on Talk's Morning Glory to last week when our own Prime Minister legally got a judgment against his own people and decided it would make sense to favour illegal migrants. Back in 3.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Certainly is JHB from 10, Ian Collins from 1, and Peter Carbell in on Drive this afternoon from 4. That's your Talk lineup. It's 7:45. We're delighted to say good morning to Karen McIver, Branch Secretary of the Epping Forest Reform UK Party. Karen, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
I struggle with what happened. I wasn't on air on Friday. I'm sure you do. Thank you, Keir Starmer. Say Epping migrants after court case victory. Over the weekend, it transpires that the judge, Mr Bean, it's quite interesting, has links to the Fabian Society, which is a socialist organisation, and happens to be mates in some ways with Lord Hermer, the Attorney General. So if you're me and you're reading that, you're thinking this was always a shoo-in for Starmer and his left-wing cronies, wasn't it? But what does that say about your people, the local people of Epping?
Well, they don't care about us for a start, clearly, and it really, really shows. It's getting very, very worrying what we're all experiencing at the moment, and I speak for many people. Obviously, I'm here today to speak about my community, but across the country, I think everybody is very, very concerned and scared. People feel that our country's gone to pot, our voices aren't being heard. And all along, the message that we're actually protesting for in Epping, the very early message and the most important message, is this beautiful family that's been affected by these these alleged assaults, and that seems to be getting lost. They don't care about that. They don't care about us. Last night we had the protest, and I was at the protest, and there was a very different feel in the air, Jeremy. It's very, very concerning, and I think lots of independent media outlets were showing what happened. The police last night, I have to say, it's been a bit up and down with the police. The first few weeks it was awful, and then it actually settled down, and the police, I feel, did quite a good job. Last night was a very different vibe. It was very, very concerning. They put all these and what we experienced at the council offices last night was very, very concerning. One of our mums was arrested, and what I don't understand as a mother myself, peacefully protesting, which we were all doing, is she was arrested in such a dramatic way, Jeremy, and in front of all of the protesters, and the perception that it gave across the world because of the media coverage was that the flag was put up. It was taken down by the police. Sarah was then arrested quite roughly, from what I saw, and it just gives the wrong impression. And all the good work we've been trying to do to keep things peacefully, and I say it 1,000 times, peacefully protest. That was all sort of washed up last night, Jeremy. And I a different police force that were looking after us. I understand it's a police force that are in special measures, and it really showed last night. They were not engaging with the people. It was rough boy bully tactics. That's how we felt as mothers. And I walked along the high street to the council offices with a lady with a double buggy with twins in, and a gentleman with 2 dogs in a buggy. We were so peaceful. We were walking. It didn't that blew up last night, and it didn't need to happen. And I really want everybody to know that we are peacefully protesting. We've said that from the start, but we need to be heard, Jeremy. We're not being heard across the country.
You certainly. Let me say this to you. Take a breath. You certainly are being heard, and I'm not just talking about here. If you read the national press, as we do every day, and you see away from the mainstream media, who don't want, of course, to point this out, what really concerns me, apart from a government that goes against its own people, is the perception in this country, because everybody quite rightly believes in free speech, that if you take to the streets, you're far right or you're far left. This started in Epping with mothers concerned about the alleged attacks on their teenage daughters because this bloody hotel with these illegal migrants is next door to a school. I cannot fathom how difficult that is as a parent. I cannot fathom how politicians want to go against the wishes of mothers, of course. And let's be perfectly honest, right? When this stuff happens, and it happens on the left, I hear it every day, and they jump on the latest thing to bitch about. There'll be people who are unsavoury on the right jumping on this. This started as a local community saying to the government, this is not acceptable, and looking to its government for Christ's sake, to support those people locally, and they've been let down. And I want to repeat what you said. Nobody, not on Talk, not at The Sun, not you, not anywhere, is saying, you know, that you don't condone anything. But the frustration that you feel, the feeling of being let down, is palpable and it's real, and it is absolutely on the doorstep of the Prime Minister of this country. And I don't think he either does know how to listen, either doesn't want to listen, or hasn't got a bloody clue how to deal with it. But it ain't going away. It's not going away.
No, we are scared, Jeremy. Let me tell you, we are scared. What, you know, I feel last night, why was that done so dramatically? I feel like it was done on purpose to this is how I genuinely feel, to frighten us, to try and stop us protesting. Yeah. But actually, it won't frighten us, because we've done this for a long time now and we will continue to peacefully protest. It won't frighten us. But what's really scary is that our own government is going against us.
Karen, I have to finish, but you know me and you know this station. We are completely with the people of Epping. We are completely with the people who... And I'm not with... But you said people they go, oh, what you support? No, not with anybody far right or far left. I'm with mothers and families saying I want to protect my kids. I'm also with all the hard-working Brits who have contacted us this morning, who are on their way to work to pay taxes simply to feather the nest of illegal migrants who... And you heard it with Bridget Phillipson earlier on. She said, we have a priority to people coming here from terrible regimes. France is not a terrible regime. We're having the mickey taken. And when it affects British people, it becomes even more important. Karen, remember one thing. We're with you. Thank you very much indeed for being on Morning Glory. 10 to 8, we're live across the UK. You want to be part of the debate? Get on the phone right now. 0344 499 1000. Back in 3.
This is a triumph for media organisations like talkTV, for the online right-wing media, for everyone who had a courage to actually say that mass deportations are the right thing to do before it became what is now a mainstream thing to say. Don't forget that it was only 12 to 18 months ago that Nigel Farage was saying things like mass deportations will be impractical or too hard. He was saying it would take us down a very dark path. He has, in this instance, I think, followed the mood of the nation.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 7 minutes to 8. Morning Glory with JKM for MG. Thanks for tuning in. 0344 499 1000. Loads of you texting. Jez says, Clive and Solihull, I would rather all illegal immigrants were in hotels rather than HMOs because at least they're in one place rather than infecting even more locations across the country. Ideally, they should be in a transit camp on Salisbury Plain. And as for Starmer's pathetic TikTok, to me it sounds like a pre-divorce statement. Very good. Nicola in Norfolk. All the clips yourself and Mike Show of Labour saying one thing in opposition and then doing the complete opposite in government need to form the basis of Reform's election campaign to remind the people Labour will be relying on the electorate forgetting the litany of hypocrisy and gaslighting they put us through. Do you know what that means? By the time the next election comes. They might, Nicola, but let me tell you, I am the mindset that the British public won't forget. Howard Shaw, grandular works for me. Chris, Isabel got it wrong about Rayner. She's a grandmother, so therefore she can be called a grandmother. Doesn't matter. Amy Dowling, or it could be Annie, I don't know, in Notts. I watch your shows daily just to say there was a big protest in the old mining town of Maltby in Rotherham over the weekend, as well as many others around the country. Maybe look at other protests, not just Epping and Canary Wharf. True, I am a grandmother and appalled at what is happening in this country, and Rob is in Oxford. You are right on the money as a parent and grandparent being frightened for the first time. My pension is my house and buy-to-let, and I can see me losing a chunk of the value after the budget. We should have listened to Sunak. Wow, we should have listened to Sunak. 0344 499 1000. We're going to... Yes, Nick, top voice though on migrants getting £300,000 houses for free while you're missing everything out. Have a listen.
Hi, Jeremy. This is Nick from Solihull. Just seen your article about the Suffolk village with housing these migrants in luxury apartments or houses. Well, it's like you've been upgraded to first class on a trip on an aeroplane, which feels great, but you never get it again. And it ruins your future travel because you'll be in standard class. But these people think this is the life of luxury and they'll expect it in the future. Cheerio, mate.
And to you, my friend. So you can send your voice now, 0344 499 1000. Wanted to put this in very, very quickly. Farmers in the United Kingdom are on course for a second year of poor harvest. We know that this government is also trying to do a land grab with its tractor tax. You know, forget the fact you've had this family for years, but you must all be rich. We're going to screw you. Good morning, very briefly, to Gareth Wynne-Jones, who I made famous. How are you, mate?
Are you sure you made me famous or I made you famous?
Probably round the other way, me old son. You've only got 4 minutes. Talk to me, kidder.
Yeah, we're in problems. You know, the dry summer and dry spring has caused major losses in harvest. We up here now, livestock farming. Yeah, we're having rain this morning, but we've been feeding silage for about a week and a half, and we've never done that in August before. So, you know, there's a lot of problems with the weather, and then we've got a crazy government trying to take inheritance tax and trying to put solar panels on good agricultural land. And
can I ask you, because I never had this conversation with you at the time when that tractor tax was first mooted, I think it's an absolute disgrace. I think if, you know, any government had its brain cells, it would make sure that it looked after certain important people, like veterans, like old people. You know, the naivety of this government to screw the British farming community when not only do they provide food, but the belief, it's that whole socialist belief that you've obviously made money, you're obviously successful, we're going to screw you. But the truth about farming communities are, and I'm right here, I think, Gareth, is these farms have been passed down over generations. You take a really small salary and it provides the food stuff for the United Kingdom. This is a course of disaster by this government against the farming community on the back, as you say, a second year of poor harvests.
Yeah, and people don't realise we get a 1% return on, you know, our businesses, which is tiny, really. And massive investments, you know, to keep the farms going. And farmers aren't spending, you know, they're worried about this inheritance tax, they're putting money to the side. So, you know, we've got other businesses that are going bankrupt because of this stupid inheritance tax. And I think inheritance tax should be scrapped for everybody in the UK. People have worked hard, you know, to get this businesses or their farms over generations. You know, my father's never had the holidays, never bought a new car.
Of course he hasn't, because he's doing the right thing. But this is I said this, and I couldn't say it too vocally during the campaign, because that's what you can't do as a broadcaster. The Labour Party has one policy and one policy only, because they don't know any other, and that is to tax increasingly anybody who's ever achieved anything. Whether you've set up a small business or you built a company, they came to power saying they wanted growth. They're destroying growth because they've got no ability to I think, embrace success. And for the farming community in this country, this is another thing. A woman said, I love the fact that you and Mike play clips about promises. Keir Starmer looked the farming community in the eye and said, we're going to look after you, didn't he?
Yeah, he was in the NF Youth Conference and said, you know, that he'd protect the family farms. And the first budget, as you know, he came out with this massive bombshell, which has shook the agricultural industry. We've never been out on this kind of scale out protesting, and we haven't finished yet. You know, we're out showing our frustrations, our anger. And let's not forget, we want to feed this nation with affordable, nutritious, good, healthy food. And food security should be at the top.
Yeah.
This government is not just destroying agriculture, it's destroying every single business from tourism to whatever it is. They have no idea how to run a business and how to run a country. And, you know, we are going to have to hit rock bottom before we start to rise.
I'm not altogether.
It's very, very sad.
I agree with you, mate, and I'm not altogether sure what rock bottom is, because I wake up every day and do this and feel like we are approaching that. Listen, Gareth, you know us here. I said it to the last lady in Epping. We're with you. We're with the farmers. I think it's an absolute disgrace. I think it's short-sighted. I think it's wrong. This station certainly will always be behind you. We appreciate your time. Gareth Wyn-Jones live on Morning Glory. JK in for MG. It's almost 8 o'clock. News on the way, and then the main man. Deputy Leader Reform UK. I'm hoping he's in a different tie to the pale blue one he wears the whole time, but I fear times are hard and they're not true. No, he's in the pale blue one again. 0344 499 1000, the number you need. Send a voice note on WhatsApp. Make a call. Damien is here. 87222. Start your text with a message, talk even. News at 8 is next on Morning Glory. Years ago, Spurs.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, there we go. It's just gone 8 o'clock. The curtains have been risen. The sun is shining. There's a spring in my step and my hat is at a jaunty angle. Welcome to Morning Glory. If you're waking up thinking, oh, God, it's him. Where's Mike? Mike's in New York. He's still in the bar. It's 20 to 3 in the morning. Legendary human being. We're here till 10 o'clock. Julia Hartley-Brewer back even from 10. But listen, in the next 2 hours, whatever you want to talk about, it's your show. I have the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice. I'm going to grill him like he's never been grilled, OK? He'll think Trevor Phillips was easy, but I'm going to include you in this. If you've got a question for Richard Tice, text me 87222, start your message with the word talk, or you want to speak to him direct, 0344 499 1000. The Deputy Leader of Reform UK, friend of the church, Richard Tice. No blue... What's happened to the...
Good morning.
You had it on, you've moved it.
You are misinformed.
Look me, if you want the British public to believe you, Tice, look me full square in the face and say, well,
I'm not having you taking the mickey about my tie colours first thing in the morning.
You're a successful man and you've only got one
We've got serious business to discuss, Jeremy. We need to get on with it.
Oh, see what I mean? This is what, when you get a politician on the back foot, that's what they do.
We've got to get to work.
Where do you want to start with? Should we start with our Ange? I mean, it is extraordinary, isn't it? All the newspapers across the weekend. My favourite on the front of the Daily Mail today, which will fuel reform, is Labour's civil war fueling Rayner sleaze crisis. We found out last week that the woman who is a grandmother did start in a council house in Stockport, now has an £800,000 duplex apartment. I don't know what duplex means. In Hove. It cost 800 grand. There have been questions about where did you get the deposit? What about the stamp duty? Are you playing the game to make sure you don't pay council tax or stamp duty on your 3 properties? Over the weekend, it transpires that the ex-boyfriend, the ginger one that might have been doing the boat, I've no idea, he worked for a company that got a big contract from maybe her department or the government, that this lady who purports to be a woman of the people used a wealth management company. Today, the Mail are saying, Labour's in meltdown. She's after knifing people. People are after knifing her because, in fact, even the Labour Party has woken up, Mr Tice, to the belief that Starmer's no good for them and the whole thing's falling down.
They've woken up to that. I wonder where, when Angela wakes up every morning, does she know which of her 3 homes she's in? Because she tells her constituents that her main residence is in Manchester, as well as telling the council authorities in Manchester. She tells the HMRC and the tax authorities that Brighton is her main residence.
Yes.
And then also in terms of doing her job during the week, she says that London is her main residence. So which is it?
Absolutely.
It's pretty extraordinary. Anyway, look, in reality, the country's in a terrible state, and everybody, I mean, look at their poll rating, down at 20%. The last poll that we have just seen, people have had enough, and that's before you go down to the migrant crisis, the judges, Mr Bean.
Oh, mate,
couldn't make it up, could you?
I've got
you
it
actually
all for
couldn't
you.
make it up.
But I just wanted, the reason I wanted to start with Rayner is, during the last election, they made a massive thing, this Labour Party, about, growth. Well, they've destroyed all that. But more than that, for the working man and woman. And yet here we have perhaps the obvious example of the darling of the unions, a woman, a single mum from the north who'd made good, and I used to think that.
And that's good. It's good to be aspirational. It's good to make money.
Of course, with her nose in the bleeding trough. She called the Tory scum as bad, if not worse, than all of those put together. And that, for me, to any Labour voters, is an abdication of what they said they believed in. It's all lies.
Well, it's just the hypocrisy that we have seen from Keir Starmer to others in the Labour Party, and the Deputy Prime Minister, she's at it as well. And we have to be clear that what she's done has not broken the law.
No.
But in her position, morally, it's pretty extraordinary to say to 3 different parts of government, this different home, one of 3, is my main residence for this part of my job. It just doesn't. Morally, it's indefensible.
When I left the show on Friday, we were waiting for that judgment on the Epping Hotel fiasco. And I actually had somebody on from Epping this morning. And for me, I just want to make this point, because it's really easy, isn't it, to go, oh, these are all far-right thugs. No, this started with mothers saying, we're concerned about our teenage daughters. There's a migrant hotel next door. There's an alleged assault that's in court, so we have to be really careful. And this has just gone through the roof. And we have a situation now, right, where a government in this country can quite conceivably be accused of going against the wishes and safety of local indigenous people and preferring the rights of migrants. I want to play you, I hate this person, but there you go. I want to play you Bridget Phillipson. She was on the show you were on yesterday. This is her on where she and her government place asylum seekers against Brits. Have a watch.
It is about a balance of rights. When people come to this country and claim asylum, we have a responsibility as a government to assess their cases and to process them. For those who have got a clear right to be here, for those who have evidenced what they are facing in terms of persecution, refugees, then that will be decided. Where they don't, then we will take action to remove people from the country. So we do have a responsibility to process those cases. And yes,
and
to
the
provide,
responsibility to those asylum seekers is more important than the responsibility to those who live locally.
Our responsibility to those who live locally is also important as well.
Also, an afterthought. People are furious.
I mean, it was a shocking misstep, and Trevor Phillips asked the right question, but she had to say what she said because the government lawyers instructed by the Home Secretary, part of their case to the learned judges led by Mr. Bean, learned judges led by Mr. Bean, was that actually that actually the rights of the migrants took preference, outweighed the rights of local people. That was literally what their case was made up of.
Now, we're talking about Mr. Bean. This is Lord Justice Bean, who delivered Friday's landmark Court of Appeal judgment. Transpires they've done a bit of digging, and an eminent KC has decided to report him to the Judicial Board, the Judicial Conduct Investigations Office, because it transpires that Mr. Bean was chairman of the Socialist Fabian Society between 89 and 90, is best buddies with that disgrace of an Attorney General, Lord Hermer, who was behind the Lucy Conley incarceration. And yet, so you sit here and you think, we did this on the radio all last week, and we're all waiting for this judgment thinking, you're surely not going to go against the people of this country. And he must have been sat in number 10 Downing Street, Keir Starmer, knowing it was a wrap because one of his left-wing buddies, human rights lawyers, was going to give him the answers he wanted. What does it message that send to the people, Richard?
It sends a message that this government is on the side of people who come here illegally, criminality. They're not on the side of British citizens. And in a sense, because the Home Office won't adopt Reform's excellent detain and deportation plan and detain people in remote detention centres away from residents, that's what they should do. If they do that, then you can remove people immediately from the hotels. But because they won't do that, they're left with no choice but to leave the hotels full. And this is a government that has pretended they want to empty the hotels and then instructs expensive lawyers and barristers to say, no, we want to keep the hotels full, please.
For me, it's really easy to get embroiled in the arguments, but you say it correctly. They shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be in hotels. They shouldn't be in houses. They should have been stopped from coming here. They should have been processed and not allowed to set foot. And I watched Nigel last week. I was mostly concerned that some police were going to arrive and nick the flag, the biggest flag I've ever seen in the United Kingdom. Truth of the matter is, you can read the room or you can't read the room. The people of this country, genuinely I believe this, are not going to be fed this BS anymore. I think it's because their lives are so affected by what's happening. I think that in the past when we were better off, mate, I think that we turned a blind eye. But now, many calls this morning. I've been up since 4:30, Jez. I'll do a 12-hour day. Why am I bothering? I've never a handout. I pay my taxes. I've never broken the law. And I look at it, he goes, this guy this morning broke my heart. And why don't I just stay in bed?
And more people, regrettably, are making that lifestyle choice, and our welfare system allows that to happen. It's completely and utterly broken, and the welfare bills are going through. Wherever you look, the cost of the illegal asylum seekers is billions of pounds. The cost of welfare, that lifestyle choice to sit on your backside, is billions and billions of pounds.
It was never a choice when I was at school.
So, when we took over councils just 3.5 months ago, since then, we've been doing what we said we would do. Reform at work, digging in, And we've looked down the back of the sofa where no one's looked before. We've looked into some cupboards, unlocked the cupboards, and I've discovered, and it's in the Telegraph today, Jeremy, that guess what? I've found between 6 and 8% of all annual council expenditure in all our councils every single year is available to be saved.
6 to 8%?
Between 6 to 8%. That's between a billion and $1.5 billion every year.
What's that being spent on right now, then?
At the moment, none of us like overpaying for a job to be done. Even worse is overpaying for a job to be done badly. But I've discovered both. Would you pay 5 times the going rate for a bad job, Jeremy?
No.
Of course not. So I've discovered that, and it's a pretty sort of unsexy thing, the local government pension scheme. Billions and billions of pounds. Well, guess what? The rich city investment managers are being vastly overpaid, huge fees, to do a bad job. They're underperforming the standard average benchmark index that anybody sensible would use. And yet no one's looked there before. And
Why have they not looked there? Help me out. Why would not common sense prevail?
Either because they're incompetent, or it's the vested interests. So a nice cosy gravy train culture has emerged. We can all scratch each other's back. We can all look after each other, take out a load of fat fees from the advisors and the consultants and the lawyers, and no one cares about the performance. No one's going to hold us to account because they'll always listen to the advisors. Well, I tell you what, Jeremy, we are calling it out. I've got a press conference at 11 o'clock. I'm exposing this scandal. It's an absolute outrage. That's just 13 councils. Multiply this across the whole of England and Wales, local government pension schemes. You're talking between 9 and 11 billion pounds every single year.
And that'd be enough to pay the doctors, wouldn't it?
Well, actually, what it would be enough to do is create a world-leading social care provision.
So you're saying
elderly
that reform
residents,
could
our
cut
vulnerable residents.
So you're saying that reform could cut council tax bills?
You could either cut the bills or you could invest in the best social care system in the world. That's a choice for the elected councillors, of course. But it's nice to have a choice, isn't it? It's a bit like making a profit. It means you've got options.
Is it? But Reform has always stuck its neck on the line and said that it's run by people who have run businesses and have experiences. And we know from Labour they've been to think tanks and university and gone on marches and whatever. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? And the past, you think about the Tories for 14 years. Nobody would make the sensible judgment to go, it's like the wind farm things last week. I didn't even know this till last week. We've gone on and on about we can't make enough wind and then we have to import it and that costs money. Oh, shock horror, I discover. If it blows too much and we make too much, we can't afford to, we have no way of storing it. And then it costs to turn the, I mean, it's farcical.
You do realise it's a sort of 200-plus-a-year-old technology, windmills, and we've actually moved away from that.
Windy Miller.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Remember Windy Miller?
Yeah, the whole thing is bonkers. I've been talking about it for 3 years. I was one of the first to raise it, and it's more waste.
So, press conference at 11. You're going to talk about
that.
Now,
and that's what we do.
Answer this in the Mirror before I send some questions to you from the people. I'll defeat Farage's scare tactics. This is Sakir this morning. Now, I just want to put this to you, because I know you've got a sense of humour, you're also very switched on. We are, at this moment, infiltrated by illegal migrants. Financially, we're about, I should think, to go to cap in hand to the IMF because we're skint. There's sort of social unrest to a degree. There's crime everywhere. There's a lack of police. The whole thing seems to be a disaster.
Talk about crime. I've even got a device on my phone.
Well, it's not a device, is it? It's a handle.
Well, it's a handle to stop it being nicked.
Isabel bought you that, didn't she?
No, I bought it myself,
Why have you bought green? Why is that? That's awful.
Because obviously I'm an environmentalist. I'm a conservationist.
So you don't believe in drill, baby, drill?
I do believe in that.
Sod friends of the earth. I'm not into all that.
You can do both.
Yes, I do. Oh, very, very You've thrown me off trait now. What was I going to ask him? Oh, my God, that's so embarrassing. That's really
the world's
embarrassing.
greatest presenter, being thrown off by...
You've absolutely ruined what I was going to say about the scare tactics. Oh, this is really embarrassing.
Yeah, the scare tactics of the Prime Minister, who thinks that he can outweigh Nigel Farage.
And the basis that all this is going on, all of this is going on, this weekend, you would think, would you not, that he would sit in 10 Downing Street and going, I've got to get the people back on side. He released this on TikTok. Now, I want you to take it in very... This is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom's response to what's going on. Play.
Before your wedding day, everyone says it's going to be the best day of your life. And, yeah, you think, well, I'm not sure. What about when Arsenal won the double?
He's the coolest man in European football. Ever since I was a kid.
I mean, apart from the fact that might mean the divorce court, which could be happening, whether that's happening or not, I'm not saying a word. Honestly, mate, seriously, what does that look like to people, again, in their cars, in a traffic jam, off to work, struggling to make ends meet? It's an absolute joke.
It just proves that he's completely and utterly out of touch with the problems, the challenges that ordinary folk up and down the country who set their alarm clock and go to work are facing, and the anger that people feel. And when I talk to people in sort of central London about the fury in my constituency, Boston Skegness, amongst residents who stop me on the street, they are raging, absolutely enraged by what is going on. And that sort of nonsense from the Prime Minister infuriates people even more. Although actually Mike last week has been playing videos of the Prime Minister saying he's going to stop the boats, and if you come here you won't be able to stay here, and people know that it's just complete and utter nonsense. And he says one thing, but the reality is completely different.
Now, 8:20, this question, and I've asked you this before on Drive, I'm going to ask you now. Loads of people are listening to what Reform are offering, because I think they're saying they're listening to the room and they've got the vibe. But the one thing that we hear about the whole time is that the governments are hamstrung. Governments are hamstrung because the blob run it, and it doesn't matter what your political persuasion. When you get into power, the fact is it's the machinations of Whitehall mean you can't do a job. Question, Anne Mitchell, for Richard. If you get in, are you going to act like the other two parties once in power, because you won't be able to get rid of the blob who will stand in your way? Convince us, says Anne, that Reform can do something about the blob, which everybody says is holding this country back. I think it's a great question.
It's a great question, and Anne, listen to the press conference at 11 o'clock, because we're getting experience of the blob in the councils. But the good news is that, in a sense, gives us the lessons and the opportunity to work out how we deal with them. And we are already dealing with them, finding ways to overcome them, and that is essentially a very important part of the learning curve.
Is it about the will of a politician? Is it about... Because, I mean, you know, if you were me, you'd go, right, Starmer's got a 180-seat majority, I'm going to go in, but he hasn't got the will to do anything about the blob because he's more interested. But you're going to have the will if you're elected.
Well, A, we've got the will. B, we've got the experience because we've been round the block. We know where to look. We're using the time currently. You heard from our press conference last week about the deportations. We will be drawing up the draft legislation in the run-up to the next election.
Labour said that, didn't they?
No, they didn't actually.
For 100 days.
They didn't say they were drawing up the draft legislation.
So you'll have the legislation
using private
ready to
sector
go.
barristers and lawyers. We're not going to rely on the civil service lawyers taking months and months and months. That's what we've got to do. And then we can hit the ground properly, hard and fast. And we will have to, because the sad reality is that this country is running out of money fast. You look at the cost of government borrowing, the 30-year bond yield at 25 to 30-year highs. We have serious financial problems. And Rachel Reeves and Starmer, I mean, you know, they say they inherited a £22 billion black hole. Well, let me tell you, they've now dug that into a £50 billion black volcano, and we're all sinking in it.
I could have saved 16 billion a minute and not given away the Chagos Islands.
We're identifying huge savings.
This show has to ask questions that are difficult and easy. Gavin in Birmingham is a floating voter. This is important. If Richard Tice and Reform cares so much about welfare expenditure, why is their policy to remove the 2-child benefit cap, which will direct even more welfare to economically inactive households? Gavin in Birmingham.
The reason it won't, Gavin, is because we will focus people on working, and we will make it much, much harder to claim welfare. But we do also have a demographic crisis, a low birth rate. We actually need more British-born citizens so that we reduce the demands to have immigration. And if we want to do that, then we've got to encourage more children to be born, and that's the right thing to do. But alongside that, you want to make it easy for people to work. You want to make work pay, and you want to make it hard for people. Pay. Yeah, you want to make it hard for people to claim welfare. And if we achieve that, I'm not saying it's easy, Gavin, but that's the objective, and we will work incredibly hard to get that done, to motivate people to go to work. And guess what? Take some risk.
Found out before the news, farmers are about to have their second poor year with crops. The dreaded tractor tax against inheritance that Starmer went to the farming, the NUJ and NUF and said, I won't do it, and then did. Really, a few irate farmers on. What's Reform's position on the inheritance tax?
We've always said that we would scrap all inheritance tax, which of course includes the family farms tax. I mean, all inheritance tax is a form of grief tax. We've all been through it. Those who've been lucky enough where parents or grandparents have succeeded and worked hard and saved. And the thing is, what it does is act as a major demotivator.
Yeah.
And I know farmers who stopped investing. Just last weekend, I was at a farm dealership in my constituency. 2 other dealerships in the local area have already given up, shut the doors, because farmers are not spending money.
How would reform help farmers?
Well, the first thing to do is to scrap the family farms tax, and the second thing to do is to scrap ridiculous solar farms gobbling up hundreds of square miles of agricultural, food-producing farmland, and we've got to increase food security by growing more in the UK.
I've never understood why anybody in the Labour Party hasn't gone, oh, sorry, we're actually screwing the very people that create our food stuff. Because don't you realise how much it's going to cost to import that stuff from another country? I've never got that.
If you reduce the cost of energy by using our own oil and gas, then you reduce the cost of all the inputs, the fuels, the cost of fertiliser goes down, and everything else. All of those different components help farmers, and as well as helping many other businesses.
This will be something anonymous from Newcastle. I'm not saying that because I don't understand their name. A lot of criticism about reform in the last election was that it was a new party. There were 1 or 2 candidates who didn't turn out to be what you thought. This one says, I'd like to ask Richard Tice, is reform going to vet in different ways potential MPs, corruption problems, etc., etc.? How are you going to do that going forward?
We will keep improving the vetting procedures, of course. Look, the reality is, when you've got 600, 1,000, 2,000 candidates. I mean, at the next May elections, we're going to have, give or take, over 4,000 candidates. In any big entity or organisation, you're going to find someone who turns out to do something or say something daft
Absolutely.
At the weekend when they are just a bit overexcited or whatever. Look, it happens.
I remember...
It's how you deal with it rapidly and promptly afterwards.
I remember a slightly famous court case for myself last year, and some months after it was finished, I was sat with my rather high and successful barrister, and I was asking, and he'd been at the Labour Party conference, and I said, what are you doing there? He said, dear boy, defamation, I spend my entire life dealing with Tories and Labour candidates. The Tory party like rent boys and cocaine, and Labour like money. Just being completely honest. I believe this country is ready for politicians to say, listen, I'm not the Archangel Gabriel. I've been divorced, I've lost money, I've done this, because I think people are so hacked off, they don't want pretense, they want honesty. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that we want wrong uns, but it's okay.
Those are the experiences of real life. People who've been round the block. We've all made mistakes. None of us are perfect.
But politicians don't admit that usually, be honest.
Well, I'm admitting it. We're not perfect. I've always said we'll make mistakes, but we'll get a lot more right than we get wrong. And when we get it wrong, we'll adapt, we'll adjust, we'll learn from it. That's what you do in business. That's what you should do if you are running the country. And also, just remember, vetting's a bit like an MOT of a car. You pass your MOT one day, but then if a chip hits the windscreen the following day, all of a sudden, if you've got a crack in your windscreen...
Buy a new car.
You would fail the MOT the subsequent day. So, it's a sort of moment-in-time thing.
I think 3 people have asked this, so I won't name them. Final question for you. After Nigel's speech last week about deportations, there was much, oh my God, these horrendous right-wing people and the press and all those sorts of things. There is a feeling in the country that reform's on a wave. Do you know what's coming the next 4 years from the mainstream media, from institutions, from the blob? Are the people at the forefront of reform... Are their shoulders broad enough, I think people would like to know?
Well, firstly, the good news is it's actually less than 4 years now.
Thank God for that!
So let's celebrate and be optimistic where we can. It's 3 3/4. Yes, it's going to get quite spicy. It's going to get pretty interesting. And the blob are not going to take it lying down.
No.
But there's no one stronger and tougher and more experienced than Nigel. And we've been round the block. And what we're seeing, we've got all the scars on our back from Brexit and from being the first people to talk about net stupid zero. So frankly, I just think we're tougher and better than the rest.
If you say stupid under Miliband, you could go to prison for being disrespectful.
Oh, it winds them up. Steam comes out of his ears in the House of Commons when I say it. It's great fun.
Do you say it all the time?
Oh yes, I'm just to wind them up.
He definitely is a very strange human being. Well,
the other good news is that I've got into his head.
Have you?
Yes, I have. And so. That's also quite fun. Amongst all the madness, we must try and smile and laugh.
Completely. So, a press conference this morning. We appreciate your time. What's it about? Council tax.
It's basically about some of the savings that we've identified, having opened the lid, looked behind the sofa, opened the cupboard doors in the councils all around the unglamorous world of pensions. But I tell you what, it's worth listening.
I know you're in a hurry, but this is brilliant. I'll see you at the conference this weekend because you've got me working this weekend, haven't you? You're looking
About
forward
time.
Oh, the Tice man. I'd like your response officially. You haven't seen the story, I'm putting you on the spot. Britain has welcomed Turkish transgender drag queens on special visas for global talent. The global talent visa permits recipients to stay in the UK for 5 years along with their many dependents and is intended to bring the very best creative detail to the country. Applicants must have their claimed artist merit endorsed by the Arts Council before visas are ultimately signed off by the Home Office. So you can come and live here for 5 years if you're a Turkish transgender drag queen.
Interesting. Well, maybe we should celebrate the fact that we haven't got any of that specialisms in this country. Maybe that's not what we want to be breeding.
If I was going to Turkey, I want teeth and a new hair, not a dress. Richard Tice, you're a legend. Thank you very much indeed. Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform on Talk Breakfast. 0344 499 1000. Back in 3.
This was almost an inevitable but sad judgment for the people of Epping, and I must say in their situation I do feel very sorry for them. I think the other thing to say is, as Chris Philp has just said on your programme, the judge was using Article 8 of the ECHR Convention to say that asylum seekers must be given proper treatment in this country. And that does mean that the rights of ordinary British people are being overridden.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Morning Glory is on. JK for MGs in America, and I'm in the studio. 0344 499 1000. You will have heard Mike and I are taking to the stage Shepherd's Bush Empire, one night only for now. Saturday, November the 15th. Only a few tickets left now. Ticketmaster on the app, ticketmaster.com. Jamie's got a word on this. Go.
Jezza, Jamie from North Yorkshire. Just on the part you and Mike having your show, I'd love to come to it. However, I'm from the north and I refuse to go to London because One, it's a haul, let's be honest, and I really don't want to put money into Dick Can's grubby little palms. Keep up the good work, mate. Brilliant show. Bye.
In which case, we'll have to come to North Yorkshire, won't we? But yeah, listen, we will. I'm sure they'll. Anyway, just if you want to come on Saturday the 15th of November, if you want to come to the Hold at London, according to the man from North Yorkshire, get your tickets right now, and we'll make an announcement this week about guests. And most definitely other venues. 0344 499 1000, 27 minutes to 9 o'clock. We always have, except on a Friday, I'm joking, we always have the columnist on page 10. Today it's David Wooding, guest columnist in The Sun. David, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Julian.
Lovely to have you on. Looking as smart as carrots there in your tie. Much smarter than Richard Tice. Your headline is extraordinary. PM is a slave to the human rights law. He must free himself. He's never going to free himself. They're all his mates. Hermer's his mate. And it turns out that Lord Justice Bean, who made that appalling decision last week about the Epping Forest debacle, he was also a close mate. They're just a cabal, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, that was the point of my article, in fact, Jeremy, because Richard Tice was talking to you earlier in a fascinating conversation you had about the blob. In fact, what I think I've identified is the blob is no longer just a civil service. It's the courts. Yeah. The legal system is the roadblock to sorting out the migrant crisis. It's not only that, a lot of other things. You know, it always ends up going to the court to decide. It's as if the government has given up running the country and decided let the courts decide what to do. And Mr. Justice Bean has actually brought this to a head. Yeah. His decision to say that the rights of asylum seekers trumps the rights of the concerns of local people has made people realise that unless we make some changes to the law, then there's no way out of this. And what I'm saying here is that Sir Keir Starmer is a slave to the human rights industry. He was a human rights lawyer. Absolutely. He was director of public prosecutions, and he keeps telling us we stick to rule of law. Sooner or later, he's going to either have to change that law or scrap our membership of the European Convention on Human Rights. Couldn't agree more.
And the fact is, he can sit there and pontificate about how law is you know, human rights law, you know, is more important than your own people. That's what last Friday's judgment said. But I was talking to Harry Cole when the Orange Man Baby invited the European leaders, and we were doing a two-way on Drive. And I was saying that Starmer seems to head a government that's more interested about how we look globally than perhaps having its nose to the ground at home. And Harry Cole said to me, I've only been in America a month, Jez, and I'm telling you categorically, England's the laughing stock. It is not. You know, Americans will say, so you can't, you write some words, you go to jail for 31 months if you're Lucy Connolly. The government protects migrants. No, they find it farcical. So I absolutely agree with you. The other great, I love I thought it's brilliant because you start your bit about Angela Rayner, and I haven't got big glasses. Angela Rayner's arrival in politics brought a much-needed breath of fresh air to the stuffy corridors of Westminster. Proud of her working-class roots, she speaks her mind and has first-hand experience of poverty, and yet, let's be honest, has completely thrown that right in the face of anybody who comes from a working-class background and has her nose in the trough more than probably all the Tories did when she was slagging them off. Would that be fair?
Absolutely. If you look at everything Angela Rayner has said, in the last 10 years, she's always hurling abuse at the Conservatives, who she called scum at one stage, and was always talking about tax avoidance. And then it turns out she's hired this firm to try and save her £40,000 off stamp duty, and she's doing business with flipping the ownership, which is her first residence among the three houses she has. To try and cut a council tax liability, it seems.
It's total hypocrisy. And can I also say, please do buy The Sun, please do read David Wooding's. But the best bit of it's all brilliant, but the best bit of all for me is this, ladies and gentlemen, just at the side, I love this. Stunt-loving Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey, we had this on last week, is boycotting this month's state banquet for Donald Trump at Windsor. You might have seen online last week, he said, God had spoken to me and me and Mrs Davey aren't coming. David Wooding put, did anyone tell him it was actually being held in a real castle and not a bloody bouncy one? Fantastic, Mr Wooding. Fantastic. We really appreciate your time. Just a quickie this morning, but a great article. David Wooding, guest columnist in The Sun, page 10 this morning. Have a watch, have a bio, 344 499 1000. Penny, voice note, go.
Morning, Jezza. Good to hear you in the morning. Frequent listener to your drive programme. Love it. So, yeah, this country is just the recipe for an absolute disaster and a revolt and an uprising, basically. Take a struggling country, sprinkle in a couple of idiots who don't know how to manage budgets, sprinkle in uncontrolled illegal immigration. So I'm very, very, very interested in what's going to happen next. You can never tell. So, yeah. Lovely programme as always, guys. Keep it up and have a good day.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. Julia Hartley-Brewer back from 10 o'clock this morning. Ian Collins, you heard there from 1, and Peter Carbell on drive from 4 o'clock, getting you home. Good morning to Patrick State, I hope that's right. We thought 2 Jags Prescott was bad, but now we've got 3 Pads Rayner, or as Mike called her last week, the Minister for Housing herself. You said it will come back and bite them on the bum. Well, I wish you would hurry up. That's Tricia. Mark's in Norfolk. Great show. Question, how many of these hundreds of thousands of economic illegal migrants given asylum not a drain on our economy? I bet all will be either unemployed or in low-income jobs, so getting some level of benefits as well, such as tax credits, housing benefits. Labour says it wants to reduce the benefits bill, yet each year we seem to import many people who do nothing but get support from an already creased British system. I agree. Sandra's in Basingstoke. How many safe countries do these migrants come through before the English Channel is reached? Well, there you are. There's the point. I'm escaping a war-torn country. There's no bombs there, and you've left your family behind. No, we need to get to Britain. Why is that? Because I speak English. Right. You're not happy in the tent in France. There's no bomb. No, I need to get to Britain. OK. Vaughan's in Shropshire. During the first Gulf War, training camps on Salisbury Plain were set up as prisoner of war camps. It's possible to do it again and complement them with a Nightingale hospital type of setup. The military could do it tomorrow. It's the lack of British backbone from this wet, pathetic government that is preventing anything happen. My grandkids, this is from a scared mum, don't know her name, have to walk to catch their school buses. Starmer's kids get bulletproof Range Rovers and security guards. That says it all. Starmer's kids, how many? He's got a couple of kids, hasn't he? Yeah, just a couple. Eric, good morning. The government are never going to scrap inheritance tax, even if farmers go out of business. They're already said the illegal migrants are more important and they need money to provide them with a luxury lifestyle. And Eric, you see, is absolutely central to what so many people in this country think. It's not that they're far right, they're not racist, they're nothing. They're just saying, I've lived my life correctly, I've paid my taxes, I've never had a handout. And I'm seeing other people, by the way, way in front of me in the queue, and I don't think that's right. 18 minutes to 9 o'clock. Couple of really interesting things about the younger generation. He's going to get me going. Ian Mansfield's the Director of Research and the Head of Education and Science at the Policy Exchange. Ian, a very good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. Very good, thank you.
What an impressive title that is. Jeremy Kyle, idiot. Ian Mansfield, Director of Research and Head of Education and Science at the Policy Exchange. Your parents must be very proud.
Well, it's a great job.
Well done. This is very frightening. White working-class school children are punished more than any other group. What, by teachers or the system?
I mean, I think if we're talking about the behaviour survey that came out yesterday, I think it's wrong to be racialising this. The big lesson to take away from this is that we have a crisis of behaviour in our classrooms. I think if you look at the numbers, we're seeing that only 54%, only just over half of pupils say that their schools are orderly most days. Fewer than 1 in 3 say they felt safe every day at school. And when we look at so-called low-level disruption, you're seeing that 56% of pupils are saying that lessons are being disrupted by mobile phones, 47% by people throwing stuff. We did a report at Policy Exchange a few years ago which said that over 7 in 10 teachers knew a colleague who had left the profession because of behaviour, which just shows this is exacerbating the teaching crisis in our schools and just massively taking away from the amount that good kids who want to get on, who want to better themselves, are learning.
I have a real problem with this. Now, please bear in mind that I'm a granddad. I'm 60 and I was born in a different era. The poll also revealed that teens are stressed by social media. Now, on the one hand, I'll caveat what I'm going to say by saying that my kids had to have mobile phones at 11 because suddenly, and this is how old I am, they get their homework and they get emails marking their homework and it's all done digitally. We used to have it marked and stand up and all that sort of stuff. I believe this generation, I'm sorry to say this, do not have it as we had it. I think there's an entitled softness about so much of it. I also have great sympathy in this instance with this story about, you know, I mean, you got Phillipson, the idiot, saying that parents must do more to tackle bad behaviour. I don't disagree with that. But if you neuter completely the controls or the authority that any teacher can have, and I never stick up for the teaching profession, but I will. If you raise your voice and say no, you probably find yourself in a court ostracised and cancelled because you've dared to say the world's changed, you see, Ian, in all due respect. I'm not saying you should go to school and be fearful of teachers, but there is a line. I don't think that line's gone. I think it's a bit like, I don't know, it's a bit like footballers. The power's shifted. We went to school, the teachers were in charge. Whether it's mobile phones or, I'm sorry, I can't do that homework, I'm anxious and, you know, full of stress, I'll have to have 6 months off. It just wasn't like that, mate. It just was different.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, just last week we published a report which looked at the overdiagnosis of certain sort of mental health and neurodivergent conditions amongst young people. And again, you know, we're not saying that people are making it up, and parents, of course, are fighting for the best for their kids. And of course, people do feel anxious. But what we wrote, we looked at all the evidence here, is that we're overly medicalising what's part of just the normal process of human life. You know, it's normal to feel miserable sometimes as a teenager. It's normal to feel anxious about exams. It doesn't mean that your teachers have to go soft on you.
Oh, thank God I'm hearing sense amongst the man. You know, I mean, the exams are going to be hard. I think I can't. No. Life isn't a bowl of cherries, right? There will be moments when you don't get what you want. You won't succeed. You'll have failure. My old man always taught me that you learn more from failure than you do from success, because that reinvigorates you to crack on and learn from it and be better next time. But honestly, we live in an environment where of course we should protect. I get the social media thing, but we should also toughen them up a bit, because we're going to end up with a soft, entitled, anxiety-ridden generation that, let's all work from home. No, let's go to work and meet other people and broaden our minds. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think And I think one of the other things is that when you get this, it actually you have this huge number of people flooding the system, and it takes away the support from the much smaller number of kids who actually do have genuine needs. Absolutely. You know, your severely autistic kid, your child with Down syndrome, your blind child. These are the people who we should be putting resources into.
But isn't that actually symptomatic of where we are as a society, where we've spent so long, it seems, making excuses for and caring for almost everybody, that in the end what happens is the genuine people, Ian, the people who need the support, be that on benefits, be it in education, I can think of several examples, are missing out because the priority has gone the other way. It's wrong, the priority, right?
And you've seen a huge number of people going straight from education onto out-of-work benefits, and that number has sort of tripled over the last few years. And it's actually terrible. It's terrible for us as the taxpayer because our money's going towards this, but it's terrible for those people as well because we're writing off we're writing them off. They could make something of their lives, but they're being told by the system, they're being encouraged down this route of hopelessness and despair. And you know, no one really wants to be on benefits their whole lives, but at the time they feel it's the easiest for them.
I'm a bit old-fashioned because when I went to school, when you come out, you either went to work or you went to college or university. I'm sorry, a lot of people find this offensive, but it's not. I never saw benefits as a career choice. I saw it as a safety net that I was happy to pay into to help people who can't help themselves, not an excuse for people who can't be asked or a system that can't change to wipe people's backsides. Not at all, not in a million years. Not in a million
I think that's absolutely the right way. I think one further sign that the behaviour crisis has got so bad is that in a rare good move, the Education Secretary has brought back Tom Bennett, who was the behaviour czar who was appointed under the Tories. And we were told a few months ago that he was no longer in position, but was welcome to reapply. And, you know, we all know what that means in general. But actually, yesterday, it was announced he'd been brought back. And I think that shows that even Bridget Phillipson has realised that things have got so bad, we need to be cracking down on this.
If she's realised anything sane, then we are really in a hole. Really good to have you on, Ian. Really appreciate your time this morning. Ian Mansfield, Director of Research and Head of Education and Science at the Policy Exchange. We appreciate him. 10 to 9. We're live across the UK. Sport on the way. Transfer deadline day. Loads and loads of stuff to talk about. 0344 499 1000. Loads to come before Julia Hartley-Brewer, who will be here at 10 o'clock on Talk.
Starmer and his gang are intent on crippling the British nation. I mean, what other possible, conclusion can you arrive at? There's no other possible conclusion. Starmer is intent on crippling Britain. And so far, the protests are, you know, almost very peaceful and very gentle. But of course, we know that from history.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 7 minutes to 9 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Time for sport. Gary Stonehurst is the North East and Yorkshire football reporter for The Sun. Gary, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Don't go anywhere. We've got to play a stab.
90 minutes in 90 seconds from The Sun.
Lovely. Now, I'm going to test myself here, Gaz, because I am a massive football fan and I'm a sports fan. I don't need the newspaper. What do you want to start with? Alexander Isak, finally the green light. 125 million. Liverpool are going to pay Newcastle today before transfer deadline day. This made acceptable by the fact they bought Nick Whatever from Stuttgart for 69 million. But we also want to know what's happening with Visa or Wissa from Brentford. All yours, me old son.
Well, he's finally got his wish, hasn't he, after nearly 40 days since going on strike. Alexander Isak's got his wish. We understand he's agreed a 6-year deal at Anfield. He's undergoing a medical today, which would suggest that Newcastle do have somebody lined up, and it's just emerged in the last half an hour that they're actually making a late swoop for Chelsea's Nicholas Jackson, who obviously saw his own move to Bayern Munich.
Sorry, did you say Newcastle are swooping for Nicholas Jackson?
That's what we've just discovered over the last hour.
Wow.
We contacted Chelsea, potential £60 million move. Chelsea are demanding fee up front. I don't think they're interested in a loan move. We do know Johan Wissa has been a target for
That's an interesting one, though, Gaz, isn't it? Because when all the people were going, it's just... And I'm not sticking up for Alexander Isak. Newcastle's my second home, and I've got loads of mates who are appalled and never want him anywhere near the city. But whilst everybody was going, outrageous, Alexander Isak refusing to play, refusing to train, that's exactly what Johan Wissa was doing at Brentford, to be fair.
Yeah, completely correct. And, you know, we discovered that I've been led to believe Newcastle not been overly impressed with his antics, but desperate needs must, and the need to strike. We've seen how much they've struggled at the start of the season without Isak leading the line. Obviously, they lost Callum Wilson to your beloved Hammers in the summer as well. So they are short up front and it's desperate needs. We understand they were linked with Jørgen Strand Larsen from Wolves. We understand that's a no-go. So it seems that it is going to be out of Wissa or Jackson.
Very interesting. We'll keep an update. Liverpool. Well, let's talk about the brilliant games yesterday in the Premier League. Let's put you right on the spot. West Ham, my team, how fantastic were they against Nottingham Forest?
What a result. I mean, I saw West Ham at Sunderland a couple of weeks ago and I thought Graham Potter only had days left, even though it was only one game into the season. But the players really responded yesterday. We've just learned they're making a move as well for Igor from Brighton to try and strengthen their defence as well today, whether they get that over the line or not. But absolutely brilliant result last night. And, you know, where's it leave Nottingham Forest with everything that's going on with their manager and the uncertainty over that?
Also, the great game yesterday, Liverpool-Arsenal, and I actually watched this, and this would be my view. Tell me what you think. Champions win when they're not playing at their best. A sublime finish from Slobber side, but Arsenal, 5 new players, lots of money. Do they not think they can... I heard Gary Neville say, do they not have the mentality to think they can win the big games? I mean, I thought Liverpool would sneak it, and they did.
Exactly. I feel exactly the same, Jeremy. I mean, Eze, you've just bought him. You've got a game changer there. And I think it was Jamie Carragher saying that Arsenal lack that mentality. They seem happy to settle for a draw. And instead of going on and pushing for the win, whereas the red machine, they just keep going. And like you said, even when they're not on top form, they're still getting results. And obviously they're going to strengthen even further today, it looks like, with Isak and potentially Mark Gay as well.
Yeah, that's the Crystal Palace captain who scored a screamer yesterday. Palace did well there.
And I just say, Jeremy, what an example of a player who potentially could be getting a big move.
Head down, nothing. Play for your team. Absolutely spot on.
Exactly.
And there's too much power. The other thing is, somebody said to me in the car this morning, what odds Guardiola walks away from City? Genuinely. I always think the football clubs have periods where they dominate. The Invincibles, Manchester United. I think it's Liverpool's turn for the next 3 or 4 years. I don't think Arsenal will get there. Man City probably have to start again. Is Guardiola going to have the energy or the desire to stay around and build a new team, or what?
He keeps saying he does, you know, and it was only a fortnight ago everyone was saying after that great win on the opening day, Man City are back, and it hasn't quite gone to plan since then. They're strengthening today. They finally agreed a deal with PSG. Gianluigi Donnarumma's coming in, so they're going to strengthen the goalkeeping department. Hopefully,
Donnarumma's going to Manchester City. That's breaking news, yeah.
Yeah, it's just emerged the last couple of minutes. He's heading there. Edison, it looks like, is going to Fenerbahce. So obviously that's a massive boost.
What about the goalkeeping? Back of the sun today, the goalkeeping situation at United. Emi Martinez, the Argentinian goalkeeper, isn't and didn't play for Aston Villa yesterday. Apparently all options open. There's another guy as well, Emmons, but I would think Martinez might end up at Manchester United. He's just like the sort of dominant keeper they could do with, doesn't he?
Oh, exactly. They could do with more than just a dominant goalkeeper, though. But yeah, we understand that a deal around £40 million. He's told Aston Villa he wants to leave. Villa obviously will want a replacement. You could see Unai Emery was not best pleased before the game last night to be without Martinez. United were all set to sign Royal Antwerp, Senny Lamans for 17 million, but that seems to have been put on the back burner now as they go all guns blazing to try and get Martinez over the line today.
Listen, it's going to be a fascinating day. The Sun will give you all of that, as will TalkSport. One quick question for you before you go. Jose Mourinho sacked by Fenerbahce, 61 years of age. I want him back in the Premier League. Does he go to West Ham? Does he go to Nottingham Forest? Or does he go north of the border to Rangers?
Oh, can you imagine him at one of the old firm clubs?
Yes.
That'd turn toxic soon, wouldn't it? And listen, anytime Jose Mourinho's managing in your league, it's fantastic for guys like me and all my other colleagues. There's a story every day. He's never short of a good sentence or two at his press conference.
Gary, I've got to jump in, man. You're absolutely fantastic. We appreciate you. Gary Stonehouse from The Sun, the North. Are you pushing a stab? Have a go.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
News is next.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You poor people waking up to Jeremy Kyle. Hello, good morning. Morning Glory is on until 10 ahead of Julia Hartley-Brewer. Mike in New York. We're in the hot seat for a few days. Welcome along. Thanks for tuning in. As ever, whatever you want to talk about, it's very, very simple. On the home of common sense and free speech, 0344 499 1000, the telephone number. You can do the same number on WhatsApp. Send a voice note, load to them this morning. And you can send a text, 87222. Start your message with the word talk. We heard from the Deputy Leader of Reform, Richard Tice, about the debacle that seemingly is this Labour government over the weekend. We're delighted to welcome live from College Green now the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp. Chris, good morning.
Jeremy, good morning.
Very good to have you, sir. Looking very smart and very serious. From my point of view, when I read what's happening, and when we finished the show on Friday, obviously the judgment passed down by the Court of Appeal about the Epping hotel fiasco. I got it down my phone. I've listened across the weekend as people have been appalled, but it doesn't go away. On the one hand, you've got Bridget Phillipson appearing on Trevor Phillips yesterday, almost intimating that the rights of migrants supersede the rights of an indigenous population. And then it transpires, Chris, that the judge who made this ruling is part of that conclave of left-wing human rights judges and was actually chairman of the Socialist Fabian Society in 89 to 90. It's a cabal, isn't it, my friend?
Well, yeah, I saw that as well. Look, I think what Bridget Phillips said yesterday on Trevor Phillips was absolutely appalling. I mean, Trevor Phillips asked her, Cabinet Minister, directly, did she agree with government lawyers who said that the rights of illegal immigrants were more important than the rights of local people in places like Epping? And she said yes. Yep. So we've got a government running our country who thinks the rights of illegal immigrants are more important than the rights of hard-working taxpayers in this country. I think that is frankly disgraceful. In fact, I'd go say more than that. I'd say it's disgusting. And no wonder people up and down the country are angry and are protesting when our own government want to prioritise illegal immigrants over people that live here already. What the government should be doing is immediately deporting every single person who arrives illegally over the channel, immediately, either back to their country of origin, if that's possible, or some safe third country, for example, Rwanda, if not. Every single one. They certainly shouldn't be put up in hotels. They certainly shouldn't be allowed to ultimately bring family members over here. This is ridiculous. Enough is enough. It's got to end. But this Labour government are just too weak to do what is necessary, and that's why people are so angry, and it's why Keir Starmer's approval ratings are so low.
I mean, listen, we're honest with each other, and this is an overview from me, and obviously I want you to respond. I was a Tory voter all my life. I was massively let down by your government at the end and turned against you, as I think a lot of people did. It must be very frustrating for you. Of course, some were fans of Rwanda, others weren't, but you certainly, as a party, didn't go about it quick enough to get that started. And, of course, the problem for your party is, whilst you have an internal review after internal review and look what went wrong, Farage is leading the way with his rhetoric. The Labour Party are, by any standards, an absolute disgrace. And people are beginning to realise that the view from the cheap seats isn't always such a good view. Is it frustrating for you now when you see what's happening to Britain, to the British people, that the Tories got it so badly wrong at the end, Chris?
Well, I think, in all honesty, we have to acknowledge that the last government did make some serious mistakes. I'll be honest about what those were. One was that legal migration was allowed to get far too high under the so-called points-based system. And you're right, what you said a minute ago, the Rwanda scheme should have ideally have been started sooner, and certainly it was a mistake to hold the election as early as it was held. I'm just going to be honest and acknowledge those were serious mistakes. But look, we're under new leadership now. I'm a new Shadow Home Secretary. We've got a new leader of the party. We're taking a new approach. And look, in the coming weeks, you are going to hear a lot more about our plans. We've announced quite a lot already. For example, having a binding cap on legal migration set by Parliament each year. So never again can we have those very high legal numbers. the government would simply have to stop issuing visas when the cap was hit. We've said already, we've tabled a deportation bill to say every illegal immigrant crossing the Channel should be immediately deported. We laid it down as a bill in Parliament. Labour predictably blocked it. We said the Human Rights Act should go in the bin when it comes to immigration matters. But there is a lot more to come over the weeks ahead because we're determined to demonstrate to the public we've got serious and credible plans. And that, I think, is ultimately the difference between us and Reform. I mean, they do have good slogans, I'll give them that. And Nigel Farage is charismatic, I'll give him that as well. But what they don't have, what Reform doesn't have, is carefully thought out, credible plans.
But that's
to fix these problems,
they're in encapsulate. Chris, I really love your honesty, and I mean it, and I consider you, mate. Therein lies the problem, right? In the coming weeks, you will hear from us about deportations. You will hear from us about the ECHR and all these treaties that we all now know are holding this country back. You acknowledge, fair play to you, that the last government failed to arrest, if you like, or understand the seriousness of this action. You must feel somewhat hamstrung. You brought up Reform and Nigel Farage. Of course, I'm sure the people on the Tory benches think it's just platitudes. He's just throwing stuff out. He's never done it. But the problem you've got is that the British public, I think, in large numbers, my friend, have seen Tories to Labour, Labour to Tories. And even though Reform have no experience, and even though it might just be headlines and we don't know about substance in any great degree at the moment, it must be frustrating that right now he's being perceived as the person who's reading the room and the person, if you like, who's got the ear of the British people. And my point to the Tories, and I've said it, I'll say it to any Tory, is I feel that the biggest mistake your new leader has made is he spent too much time self-reflecting. 12 months. He's stolen the lead on you because he's speaking. And I know you're saying stuff is coming, but surely it would have made a lot more sense for that stuff to have come sooner, Chris.
Well, you know, hindsight, wonderful thing. We did obviously suffer a bad defeat a year ago, and we wanted to take a bit of time. Obviously, you can look at that with hindsight. But look, we are where we are. And I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm fighting every single day to hold the Labour government to account. I've done things like go over to France. I've gone into the migrant camps myself in August a few weeks ago. And one of them pulled out a machete. You know, I'm doing everything I can to hold the government to account, to expose what's going on with illegal migration. I went to an asylum hotel and exposed the illegal working. I've got lots of new ideas that we've developed. I'm raring to go. And I think the party is raring to go as well. And this autumn, I think you're going to see a changed Conservative Party that is really going to be firing on all four cylinders.
Just very quickly, holding the government to account, Three Pads Rayner, or the Minister for Housing herself, as Mike Graham now calls her, which I thought was genius. It is unbelievable, and there's a great article on page 10 by Mr. Wooding this morning, just the piece in The Sun, and he says that when Angela Rayner first came to public prominence, she seemed like a breath of fresh air, a single mum who'd worked her way up from a council house upbringing. This is what she told us, and she'd done well, and she became the Deputy Prime Minister. Some of what's being written and found out about these three apartments, places, whether it's council tax, whether it's the boyfriend being involved with loans and all this in a wealth management fund. What an appalling, hypocritical look for a party that calls your party scum, for a woman who spent her entire time saying, oh, the rich boys are out now, we're going to deal with working people. I don't know a working person to this day now who would think that Angela Rayner speaks for them, Chris.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, she's done all kinds of very strange things that look like flagrant tax avoidance, like she's put one of her houses into some kind of trust, which by amazing coincidence is exactly on the threshold to avoid tax. It looks like she's done a shuffle, flipping the designation of her principal residence to avoid additional stamp duty. She has some serious questions to answer. She needs to come clean about what's going on, and she is definitely, at a minimum, guilty of flagrant hypocrisy for undertaking all of these brazen shenanigans to avoid tax, while serving as part of a government slapping the rest of us with massive tax increases at every opportunity, while performing absurd contortions to avoid tax herself, it would seem. But she needs to come clean.
Couldn't agree more. And for Chris, I know you're a busy man. We really appreciate your time this morning. Chris Philp, Shadow Home Secretary. Very honest, very candid there, leading the Tory fight back. He says 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. My next guest I'm going straight to was an MP for 30 years, Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, but ended up working, sadly, in a little chef heading north towards Stafford. I rescued him. I put him on radio. He's now got a regular gig, a book, and he flies around the world. Nigel Evans, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
Where are we today, dear? Where are you?
No, I'm still in London. In London. Off to Sweden on Wednesday.
Of course you are. The world tour. When's the book ready? Is it going to be out for Christmas?
I doubt it, but it'll be early next year, I think. I'm off to Spain in September for 3 weeks to really... I'm up to 17 chapters, and then Spain hopefully will get the rest of the book done. So you won't have to wait long.
Good man. Great to have you on. We use you on Drive the whole time. It's great to have you here. Nigel, where should we start? Let's start with last Friday, because I was at home having done breakfast when that judgment came through from Mr Justice Ben, who turns out, by the way, to be a left-wing human rights lawyer and was the chairman of the Fabian Society, which is a well-known socialist organisation from 89 to 90. So whilst sane people in Epping and people across the UK were thinking, no, come on, surely our government's not going to go against the wishes of a local community to favour migrants. Starmer presumably was sat somewhere in 10 Downing Street, rubbing his hands, knowing that one of his lefty mates was going to deliver exactly what he wanted last week.
Yeah, I think he's in the same chambers as Sherry Blair as well, isn't he? So
and Lord Herman, the what's it, isn't that right? The Attorney General.
I understand he's been referred by another lawyer, so that's going to be investigated. I think there was 3 of them that made the decision, but it's the wrong decision in my book. And indeed, I think Yvette Cooper was rather silly in appealing, because at the end of the day, Jeremy, tell me if I'm wrong, but I thought that they wanted all these hotels closed. And yet to take a local authority that is fighting on behalf of their residents to court in order to keep the hotel open, I think is absolutely pathetic and disgusting, quite frankly.
Somebody said to me that this smacks of them not having a plan, which I completely agree with. I don't think they had a plan on an awful lot. But actually, the optics... You know, whether this is made far worse by press, but the optics of saying, and let's not even call them protesters. Let's talk about mothers standing on street corners with banners saying, we are concerned as to the safety of our teenage girls because allegedly there are 2 sexual assaults, right, in this area, and we have concerns that unvetted men are coming in and this could happen. And the government goes, we don't actually care about the rights of you or the safety of your children. We're more as Bridget... Can we play this again, Nigel? Because I've got to play this to you. This is Bridget Phillipson, oh dear, on asylum seekers on Sky News yesterday. Have a watch, have a listen.
It is about a balance of rights. When people come to this country and claim asylum, we have a responsibility as a government to assess their cases and to process them. For those who have got a clear right to be here, for those who have evidenced what they are facing in terms of persecution, refugees, then that will be decided. Where they don't, then we will take action to remove people from the country. So we do have a responsibility to process those cases and yes, to provide...
the responsibility to those asylum seekers is more important than the responsibility to those who live locally.
Our responsibility to those who live locally is also important as well.
Nigel, I've said it 4 times this morning already, also as an afterthought. To me, that interview smacks of our priority as asylum seekers, not Brits.
Well, that's what she's just said. And you've just had Chris Philp, you've just interviewed Chris, Jeremy, and he said, listen, we got some things wrong, right? He admitted that. What you've just heard Bridget Phillipson say, let's fast forward 3 years when the Labour Party have been kicked out, and I can imagine her being interviewed by you on College Green. Well, she'll say, yeah, we did get some things wrong. And what she just said was one of them. You cannot put the rights of illegal asylum seekers coming into the United Kingdom above those of the indigenous population who pay their taxes, work hard, and that's what she's just done. So that's one of the big mistakes. This is one of the reasons why the Labour Party are going to get booted out at the next election.
I couldn't agree more. To me, it's almost profoundly, it's just deaf. But let's talk about Mr. I just, the whole thing to me smacks of Starmer. I don't even know whether he's not got any plan or he hasn't got the intelligence. You know, he's attacking in front of the Mirror today, right? I'll defeat Farage's scare tactics. Now, whether you support Nigel Farage or not, even Chris Philp admitted that he's managed to grab the limelight with just 4 MPs. They speak, it seems, about the things that matter to people. They are proactive, not reactive. We've talked many times about how Kemi needs to hurry up. Yeah. Chris Philp says that's about to happen. But to me, Farage has stolen the moment from all of them. And you know, he says, we're going to be open and soft and sort this out. I'm not sure he understands the depth of anger in this country, pal.
No, the tipping point has been reached, and that's why you've got, as you said, mums on streets with placards outside these hotels. It probably takes a lot to get these people onto the streets, and they've managed to do it. So we've absolutely reached that particular tipping point, Jeremy, and action's got to be taken. I was rather reassured, actually, by what Chris Philp had to say, because it's the first time that I've heard the Conservatives say it, and it's what you and I have been saying for the past several weeks, which is anybody who enters the United Kingdom on one of these boats will now be deemed guilty of a crime sufficient to get them chucked out of the country. So none of their relatives are going to come over. There's going to be no hotels, no balloon making
oh, God.
Any of that rubbish, right? So all of that's going to go, and they're going to go to either a third country or to the country where they've come from. It's the first time I've heard a Conservative say that, and I'm now, I think, a bit more reassured that Kemi's on the right track, and I'm looking forward to the party conference because, as much as you are absolutely right, this a period of reflection, all right? And I understand where Chris is coming from. We took an absolute battering because of Rishi's brain-dead decision to have an early general election. He gave up. He didn't deliver on what he promised, and he'd rather quit rather than get people out to Rwanda. Now, this last opportunity for Kemi is going to come at the party conference, and her conference speech better lay out exactly, without any maybes, and we may leave this and we may leave that. When you've got people like Jack Straw,
yeah,
David Blunkett, who are now coming out and saying, well, listen, we know people are saying that leaving the European Convention is a contravention of the Good Friday Agreement. And people like Jack Straw, who was the Home Secretary at the time when this was sorted out, are saying, no, you're wrong. You're completely wrong. They're all hiding behind Northern Ireland or the Good Friday Agreement. You don't have to.
I don't know whether they're hiding behind incompetence or that. You've got Bridget Phillips, and we've talked about Rayner and 3 pads Rayner. I mean, the other thing that's extraordinary, I'm going to ask you this is, this is in the Times today, nearly 6 in 10 voters believe it would be unjustified for the Chancellor to raise taxes, and most think that she's not very good at her job. I've got a little clip here, because there's a lot of people that think that we're unfair on Morning Glory to Richard III or Rachel Thieves, but I think the following video shows just how competent she's not. Have a watch. In your own time. It's not happening.
Have a challenging economic inheritance with high levels of tax as a share of GDP, historic high levels of government debt, and then also economic growth that really for the last 15 years has been very poor by historical standards because of the weak productivity growth that we've experienced in that period of time.
Nige, you were in politics for 30 years. Does that sound to you... Look at his face. Does that sound to you like somebody has got a grasp of what they're supposed to be doing?
It's awful. Good grief, amateurism at the highest level. I've got a good idea, though, Jeremy, because as MPs come back to Westminster after their summer breaks, I understand that there's speculation that Starmer might have a bit of a reshuffle.
Yes.
Well, listen, why not? Because that same poll that you just referred to also said that they want Rachel Reeves out of the job. and I've got the ideal candidate to put into that job, and that's got to be Angela Rayner. Why? Because a few moments ago, you referred to the fact that she started out in a council house, and look where she's got to. She's now got a wealth manager advising her on a property.
And if she was Chancellor, she could definitely change the stamp duty rules and how you're allowed to bend the system. Mate, it's just... we've got some breaking news. You'll love this. Well, I love it, probably will. Breaking news on Morning Glory. Number 10's communications director, James Lyons, is that his name? Lyons, has just quit. He's leaving his role less than a year. He was the new number 10 director of communications. James Lyons has this morning suddenly quit. He'll be leaving the post straight away. He's only been there less than a year. Your response to that, Nige?
I tell you what, there's sometimes that you can't sell a product that is completely failing, right? I suspect he's not been sacked. I suspect he's just looked at the job that he's been asked to do as basically a comms director is actually to sell the product. And there are sometimes, I don't care how good you are.
It's a bit like Gerald Ratner's communications director when Ratner went, you know, my jewellery's crap. And he went, I'm really sorry, I can't work here anymore. I don't have anything to sell. Listen, we always love having you, and I'm going to leave you with a light-hearted one. Oh, no, actually, I'll tell you, there's a photograph of Starmer there. I'm going to play you one more video because Mike loves doing this and so do I. In the midst of the disaster that is the United Kingdom, in the midst of rising taxes, farmers, veterans and all sorts of people being screwed, migrants illegally coming into this country, food going up, electricity going up, wind farms are a bag of rubbish, all of this stuff, you would have expected this weekend our Prime Minister to address his people, maybe directly or via social media and say, listen, I'm with you, don't worry about it, we've made a few mistakes, but we're going to deal with this. I don't know if you've seen this. This was released by the Prime Minister on TikTok over the weekend. And I want you to keep the camera, get rid of me, keep the camera on Nigel Evans's face, because this is unbelievable. Take it away, Sir Dreary.
Before your wedding day, everyone says it's going to be the best day of your life. And yeah, you think, well, I'm not sure. What about when Arsenal won the double?
He's the coolest man in European football.
Ever since I was a G.
Cut back to Nigel. So, talk to me. Look at Nigel Evans. Talk to me.
I'm staggered. I tell you what, right, between that and what we're watching, he's as good as a Prime Minister as he is a footballer by the looks of it. But the reality is he is obsessed with roaming around the world, looking at the international stage, whilst his own country is crumbling. I mean, that's the real problem. He can't deal with the problems at home, so he is looking at things abroad, whether it's Ukraine. He'll be going off to the United Nations shortly to recognise Palestine, and he thinks that's going to solve the problem in the Middle East. Oh my goodness me! As somebody once said about John Major, if you recall, when it was revealed that he was having an affair with Edwina Curry, somebody said within Parliament, my goodness me, he does get everything wrong, doesn't he? And that's, I'm afraid, what we've got with Keith.
I was having a really bad morning, but I've just had a bit of toast, and now I feel a little bit of sick in my mouth. The thought of John Major and Edwina Curry making out is... I'm sorry, love, that's too much for me. The amazing Nigel Evans, thank you very much indeed. So, breaking news on Talk. Number 10's Communication Director James Lyons has quit the role in less than a year. As Nigel Evans quite rightly just said, difficult to sell something you don't believe in. We're going to go to the ad break with a voice note. Keep your calls coming. 0344 499 1000. Text to 872 Start your message with the word talk. Emily, take us away.
Morning, Jeremy. It's Emily in Havant here. I'm just listening to you right now, and you're talking about welfare, and I can say, as someone who works full-time on minimum wage, it's very tempting. It's very tempting when, you know, you see people sitting around doing nothing for the same or even more money than you are. So what I propose is make work worth it. You know, make it so that you actually earn enough to make it worth going to work over sitting around on your backside. Love you, Jeremy. I'm hoping to come see you and Mike.
Yeah, so screen time is a massive sort of part of teenagers nowadays since, like I said, lockdown. A lot of people in my class have long screen times, 10 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, and it is certainly on the rise, and it's something that we need to be doing more about. The anxiety side of things, I don't necessarily believe that anxiety has risen. I think maybe laziness has risen, and a lot of people use that as an excuse to anxiety as an excuse to not do stuff, but certainly screen time is a massive problem.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back. 9:30. We're morning glorying it until 10. Julia Hartley-Brewer here from 10 o'clock. Ian Collins, the housewife's choice. Well, my wife's choice is here from 1. And Peter Cardwell is on drive. I don't know why I did that. Jez, why Shepherd's Bush for your gig with Mike? Get your backside up to Manchester and you'll have a proper sellout show. We will be doing that, but we kick off Saturday, the 15th of November at Shepherd's Bush Empire. Mike Graham and Jeremy Carl's World of Common Sense. Just a few tickets left. You can go on Ticketmaster on the app or online, ticketmaster.com. Special guest, a bit of fun, and he and I, yeah, come along. Hello to Leslie. Hi, JK. Let's not forget Starmer had to ask a judge what a woman is and couldn't say if a man could have a cervix. You, Leslie, I'm old-fashioned. I remember, as I said earlier, when a woman had a womb. With a duh, I'm joking. Phil's from Peterborough. I watched the protest in Epping with great interest over the weekend, JK. The approach from the police has changed. They are very, very heavy-handed, and I think it antagonises the protesters and pulls them into conflict so that Mr Starmer can wield around his heavy hands and his over-authoritarian... That's the word. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. I quite agree. Richard's on the Costa del Sol because he's given up on this country, but he said, bloody hell, I thought I'd overslept. I forgot you were on Morning Glory, says Richard in the Costa del Sol. You probably are oversleeping, you retired, sunburnt, lazy man. Faith Lucy Smith. Jez, I've just booked 2 of the remaining tickets for your show with Mike in November. It's my other half's birthday on the 16th and mine on the 23rd, so it's a joint birthday present. Great. Massimo from Great Bowden. Do you know where Great Bowden is? Manchester. Morning, JK. Mike will be proud. I love James Price. My father owned a restaurant in Belgravia for 43 years before retiring and grew friendly with Queen Camilla and her family over the years. In fact, her sister Annabelle just had a visit with him in Italy last year. Camilla had birthday parties at the restaurant for herself and also her children. She is a lovely, caring, compassionate woman and always has been. I look forward to yours and Mike's show. I just bought my tickets. Very nice. What's this? Simon Mitchell. Landudno. Oh, lovely. No. Is that right? Is it? Oh, lovely. Reschooling and teachers. This was the bit we did earlier that was very fascinating about bad behaviour and about... Well, I think kids are... Anyway, I have a 13-year-old nephew who's being taught in school about trans kids and people. He questioned that if that's their thoughts, that's fine, but he doesn't have to believe it. His mum got a phone call to go into the school for a meeting with the head teacher and a week's exclusion. As a new parent myself, I can't wait for the same phone call. I question everything. Jez, my daughter, was very anxious about going back into school today, but I reminded her that she's 38 and her class needs a teacher. Woo! Right, 0344 499 1000. Some calls on the way as well before 10 o'clock. Right now, we say a very good morning to Tobias Elwood, former Defence Select Committee Chair. How are you, dear boy?
I'm very good indeed. Good to see you.
It's sat there in front of your bookcase. I've got that, mate. Tobias, there's a really interesting stuff out today. An interview, an article in the Express saying, this doesn't surprise me at all. I'd love your response. Nearly 3/4 of Brits would be unwilling to fight for this country in the event of a war.
Yeah, I think that's a fair reflection and a concern from my perspective. There was a famous debate back in 1932 at Oxford Union. The motion read, "This House will not fight for king and country," and it won. This was a scarred generation growing up after the First World War, and Churchill commented to say he believed Hitler would deduce from that Britain was not up for the fight. If Hitler took Europe to war, but how wrong he was, because when there is a threat there, the nation does step up. And I believe that will be the same case again. The reason why this question is being asked about national service is because there is a threat growing, something that you and I have discussed many times. We are woefully unprepared for this era of insecurity. And I just give an example of that. What would you do? What would any community do if there was no power, no internet, no water for 72 hours in your community? That's the sort of threat that we're likely to face. Who would you call? Who would you look to? Your council? Your local resilience forum? They won't be there. The army is overstretched. And this is where a national service, not like the Dad's Army, let's get rid of that image, but one where all of society has roles to play in supporting ourselves, preparing ourselves for difficult times ahead.
I only take you on, Tobias, because I'm slightly confused, because the Prime Minister of this country apparently is good at football. This is what he said in June when he said, and I quote, "We're moving to war readiness." Have a listen.
We are moving to war-fighting readiness. When we are being directly threatened by states with advanced military forces, the most effective way to deter them is to be ready. And frankly, to show them that we're ready.
Tobias Ellwood, your response to yet another lie from the lips of our Prime Minister?
Well, we're mixing two different things there. There's one which is an all of society preparedness for what's coming over the hill. And then there's our military forces as well, that state-on-state conflict. Our artillery, our army would last about 6 days in a Ukraine-style environment. We don't have the munitions. We don't have the capabilities there. And what Keir Starmer was doing, which the Conservatives should have done a long time ago, was invest in our defence posture, our Army, Air Force, Navy, our resilience capabilities, our cyber capabilities and so forth, the full spectrum of warfare, which after 3 or 4 decades, we've allowed to wither. But as I stress, this is a new era of danger that we've entered, and we're not in control. And so there's various aspects of this, of which national service, I think, would be a critical part of that. But your question at the very beginning is so critical. Unless we take the nation with us and explain how this is to be done, because this image of getting up at 6 in the morning and marching on parade squares, that's not what it's all about. This is about having a skill set within our society, extra ambulance fire service capabilities, defense industry, cyber skills, AI skills, air traffic control, drone capabilities, unmanned operations, all these elements that our traditional armed forces can't actually provide, but are now critical in the new theatre of war.
It's quite interesting when you talk about the new theatre of war. There's no doubt that we don't have enough people. There's no doubt as well that we need to update. Whether this government will do it or not, I don't know. But I would also add in that a large number of people wouldn't want to fight because I think there's a general apathy. I think there are many tensions in this country right now, and maybe you might disagree, but maybe people aren't feeling patriotic. Maybe they're not feeling like they live in the United Kingdom. Maybe they're not feeling like putting their necks on the line. I tell the same story every day for a reason. I go into the town where I live, which is near you, and every week, without fail, I see the same veteran who did 14 years, thrown out of his hotel for migrants in Bournemouth, sitting on the street corner, begging, well, not begging, just got a thing up, and I do whatever I do every week, and he says to me every week, what's the point of me giving 15 years nearly to my country when I'm treated like this? I think that's massively relevant as well, Tobias. I really do.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, and I think there's been an absence, generational absence, of just confirming who we are as a nation. For centuries, decades, we've been a very, very powerful nation. We've not had to label it or confirm or indeed agree as to what our nation stands for, what it believes in, where it's going. It was pretty obvious to everybody. But now that's not clear at all because of the geopolitical challenges that we're now facing, the difficulties. But I would also go back to that national service and to say that going into the past, 2 world wars actually helped bring our nation together to actually, because we responded in the way that we do. A national service would help strengthen social cohesion. It would foster that sense of unity, that national pride, this sense of civic duty, if you like, this social cohesion that we want to see, to bring the nation together and act as a bridge also for long-term careers into our armed forces, but ultimately strengthen who we are as a nation.
Couldn't agree more. Listen, it's great to have you on. Always good to chat. Tobias Ellwood, former Defence Select Committee chair there. 21 minutes to 10 o'clock. We're live across the UK on the home of common sense and free speech. Breaking news this hour. The number 10 Communications Director, James Lyons. Lyons, even okay. He's quit after less than a year. A bit like Ratner. How the hell do you sell something you don't believe in? This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, sorry, that's terrible. It's all been so good for 2 days, and I'm sitting thinking, is this an advert? And then Mark's just looking at me, going, I know what he is. He's that word that Mike used the other day that I'm not allowed to. The people that work on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays. 0344 499 1000. We've got a voice note. Pete, this is a story that we threw earlier about anxiety in schools and the pressure of going to school and how it's really, really difficult, and that's why my behaviour's bad. Not we went to school, had to walk there in the rain and had to get on with it. Have a listen.
Morning, Jez. Pete from Lancashire. Jez, I was a mental health nurse for 28 years, mate. One of my main reasons for leaving is our trust. They wanted us to go into primary schools and talk to 9 and 10-year-olds about anxiety and depression, mate. And for me, I just thought we were planting seeds. You know, at that age, mate, anxiety, it can be easily validated. It's butterflies in your stomach. Christmas Eve, old school stuff. They wanted us to go into detail about anxiety and depression, mate. So we're planting seeds, and that went ahead, by the way. That went ahead with our trust in local schools.
I love that call from Pete. A lot of people don't agree with me because people will jump up and down and they'll say, yes, Jez, but the impact of social media. I get all of that. But I think we're breeding a generation of kids that are being given the reason to be soft, right? You have to teach kids that it isn't ideal. There will be moments when they fall flat on their faces. They don't win at everything. They have to face the bully. They have to face the teacher who doesn't like their bit of work and do it again and learn from it. I go back to something I said earlier. I know he's dead, but the old man used to say to us, the whole goddamn time, you learn more from failure than you do from success. I'm so with that guy, Pete. 0344 409 1000. The big news story of the day, obviously, centres on many things. Certainly Rayner, but the other big story is migrants, and that judgment last week on Friday when the government, the Home Office, took the people of Epping to court. They'd won. Migrants weren't allowed to stay in hotels. This is really interesting because the judge who ruled the Epping migrant hotel can stay open is reported to the Conduct Office by a fellow judge this morning over historic links to a left-wing organisation, including the Fabian Society, that he was chairman of between 89 and 90. We're delighted to say good morning to Peter Lloyd, journalist and Sunday Times best-selling author. Peter, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. I was going to say, wow, Mike, you look great. You must be on the Ozempic.
You what?
I'm just going to say, hello, Mike. You look great. You look like you must be on the Ozempic. You're looking better than ever.
I've been working out. Mike doesn't even sound like that. What are you talking about? He looks much better. You look very... I thought I was interviewing Ryland for a moment. What's going on?
Oh, my goodness. Thanks, Jezza.
I'm joking. Listen, really appreciate you being on. I know you're a busy man. I mean, it is extraordinary when you dig. I mean, when I found out the name of this judge, that was bad enough, Mr. Bean. And then it transpires that Mr. Bean is no doubt part of that left-wing human rights lawyer cabal that includes his well-known friend Lord Herman. No, he's not. He's the one, the Attorney General, who's responsible for Lucy Connolly. And then it turns out he was, in fact, in charge of the Fabian Society as chairman for a year. Another one of Starmer's mates. And I was saying earlier, Pete, you can imagine while the country was on tenterhooks on Friday, you know, concerned about this whole thing because it's affecting so many people, and many people were pleased to see the original judgment. And I'm sitting there on air thinking, you're going to try and go against the British people. You've put yourself in the most ridiculous position. Starmer was presumably somewhere rubbing his hands knowing that one of his lefty mates was going to give him the answer he wanted, buddy.
Oh, of course. And it wasn't just Justice Bean. Like you say, Justice Bean was a member of the Fabian Society. He was also an auditor for the Society of Labour Lawyers, a very left-wing socialist think tank. The two other judges on the panel were also connected to Labour. You had Justice Nicola Davies. She is a Labour voting feminist and Welsh nationalist. You also had Justice Cobb. He wanted to famously overturn Brexit because he didn't like it. These three judges are all compromised. In any other industry, in any other universe, they would have to declare a conflict of interests. But because the establishment is rigged, they haven't had to, and instead they've been able to give the government what they wanted, which is access to asylum hotels. It's appalling. It's such a rigged system.
It's really interesting when you say establishment rigged. We had Richard Tice, Deputy of Reform, on earlier, and I put to him a question that I get asked the whole time, which is, you know, we hear the blob runs the, you know, the blob is so instrumental, 10,000 in government, and yet 200 people lose their jobs when a government changes, spads and ministers, and how the blob... Right. And I always say, you know, Reform will say, we're going to take the blob on. And people phone and text and go, well, how? Because nobody else seems to. Richard made a really good point this morning. The judges, so much of our justice system can also be labelled as part of the blob. It is an establishment and it is rigged. And I find it astonishing, hand on heart, mate, that a man elected by the people of this country, not his left-wing human rights mates, has got so little intelligence that he thinks it would be a good idea to go against the electorate just to back up his mates. It's extraordinary. And how short-sighted, Peter?
Oh, absolutely. But of course, don't forget, they've been able to get away with this operational behaviour for decades because the media was tightly controlled. All of the outlets, the newspapers were tightly controlled. The narrative was tightly controlled. Now, thanks to Elon Musk and Twitter X, we're able to have a voice and we're able to highlight the corruption. And, you know, I appreciate that it might sound conspiratorial to say that the establishment is rigged, but actually, that's always what these people wanted. If you go
I'm not sure it does sound conspiratorial. I remember on Drive Time doing the terrible story about Rotherham and the call for a national inquiry, and it was no, and the Labour Party went off for their Easter recess. And I remember being on air thinking, there must be so many parts of our society, be it the police or local government or central government or social services, that are entwined in not wanting to get to the bottom of the most appalling story. And when you look at this, migrants today, £300,000 new houses, you can stay in England. I covered a story last week about a poor girl on Dorset Beach, Bournemouth Beach in Dorset, Pete, a migrant who'd been in the country but hours put his hands down the back and front of her trousers. The court comes and the judge goes, it's a mere aberration. He's had a very hard upbringing. He can stay here forever. Well, I don't mean to be disrespectful, right? But I didn't think putting your hands down the back of a girl's trousers is because of your upbringing, because that insults every person who ever came from a poor background that's always lived their lives correctly and never broken the bloody law.
Exactly. Funnily enough, I've actually just done a report with the New Culture Forum about the rape statistics in Liverpool, my home city. The rape statistics there have doubled within 10 years. Not because the local men have suddenly become predators, it's because they've invited in thousands of savage migrants. And every single city leader, from the council to the police to the mayor, none of them will acknowledge it. Many of these people have even blocked me on social media because they don't want to face the reality. These people are all corrupt, and now, thanks to you and platforms like Talk, we're able to have a voice and we're able to highlight it, and that hopefully will feel more protest.
And can't and won't accept. The British people will no longer accept being fudged. Very quickly, we've got some breaking news. I told you earlier that the number 10 communications director, James Lyons, has quit. How do you sell something you don't believe in? Breaking news from Downing Street. Cabinet Minister Darren Jones, isn't he the one who said that most of the people on the boats are women and children, yeah? He's just been appointed to a new position in Keir Starmer's Downing Street, previously Chief Secretary to the Treasury. Obviously wants nothing to do with the budget. He will now be... This is even worse. He'll be now responsible for helping deliver the Prime Minister's priorities as Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister. Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister. So we don't want anything to do with the budget because that's going to be crap. You're now going to be allied entirely to a man who's going to go down in history as one of the worst Prime Ministers ever. Quick response from you, my friend.
What could possibly go right?
Love having you on. Thanks for saying I'm the new slimline Mike Graham. Peter Lloyd, journalist and Sunday Times best-selling author. Thank you. This is Talk Drive. No, it's not. It's Talk Breakfast. You see what happens? It happens. It's life. It's 10 to 10.
We have to get away. And it's not just the ECHI, it's also some of the other conventions which have established themselves in British law and I think have been over-interpreted. Interestingly to hear Jack Straw and David Blunkett talking about this last week. Genuinely amazing to hear them saying, actually, this was never our intention, because it was always meant to be advisory. You know, you can listen to what the ECHR said, but you don't need to adopt what it says. Our courts have taken that with some of these activist judges in a totally different position. They've absolutely gone hell for leather for whatever has come across their desk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
God, I love this station and I love... Right, so you might have heard the breaking news in the last 10 minutes. The Cabinet Minister Darren Jones, previously Chief Secretary to the Treasury, so to do with a budget that's a disaster, has just been appointed to a brand new position in Keir Starmer's Downing Street government. He'll now be he's going to be Chief Secretary to Keir Starmer. He'll be responsible, ready for this, for helping deliver the Prime Ministerial policies and priorities, which should be great because he's a liar. Watch him on Question Time previously. Have a listen.
And when you see that the majority of the people in these boats are children, babies and women who have been...
No, they're not. But they're not! So not only is he's going to fit in perfectly, can you imagine him trying to sell Keir Starmer's policies? We're not siding with migrants, we're siding with the people. No, you're not. Oh, God, Darren Jones. And who needs a Chief Secretary as Prime Minister? Mike Graham might need Chief Secretary soon. Right, couple of quick calls. Julia here at 10 o'clock. Norman's in Dartford. You got 1 minute on breakfast. Go.
Morning, Jeremy.
Morning, mate.
As fighting for the country,
yes.
Only last week we got told we were second-class citizens.
Yes.
Well, that's a bit ironic. But we won't have to worry because we've got hundreds of thousands of immigrants here. And as they took their life in their hands to get here, surely they'll fight for the country. So I'm not too worried at all, Jeremy.
I think the reason that the Labour Party is so keen to have as many migrants as possible is he's probably going to ask them to all vote, and that's the only way he thinks he's going to get back. But he's got a new man now, Darren Jones, to sell his lies. That'll be interesting.
Oh, God. He's a real joke, that one.
I love your voice. I'm trying to work out who you remind me of. It's a character years ago on television. Norman in Dartford, thank you. Let's go to Newcastle, the best place in the world. Karen, good morning. Where are you, man?
Good morning, Jeremy. I hope you and Mike are actually going to come to Newcastle with this show so you can actually put a name to the face.
Let me just point out what she's talking about. November the 15th, Saturday, at the Shepherd's Bush Empire, or even Empire. Mike Graham and Jeremy Cowell's Word of Common Sense. There's only a few tickets left. Go online now, ticketmaster.com, or go to their app. But we will, fingers crossed, take it across the country. This one first, though, Saturday the 15th. What you got for me, Kaz? You've only got 30 seconds.
I'm just concerned about Farage at the moment because it sounds as though he's actually flip-flopping like Starmer with these women and children, because at the end of the day, they're going to find a way in, aren't they? So they're going to send the women and children over so they can come into the country. It's just getting absolutely ridiculous.
We need to, as a country, be able to have a debate about the impact of migration without people getting their knickers in a twist. Listen, I really appreciate your support and your help. Thank you very much indeed, Karen in Newcastle. Am I having Julia or am I going to North Yorkshire? Kevin, you've got 30 seconds. North Yorkshire, go.
Judges, Fabian Society, people need to realise that the Fabian Society's stated aims is to cause socialism by evolution, not revolution, and their badge is a red background with a black wool stud with sheep's clothing on it. So anybody should see that and realise what the stated aims of these people are. And the government itself, most of the people in that on that front bench are part of the Fabian Society. So.
Couldn't agree more. My regards to North Yorkshire. That was Kev. 3 minutes to 10 and the First Lady of Broadcasting is in the building.
Good morning.
How are you?
Who am I?
The First Lady of Broadcasting, political broadcasting. Julia Hartley-Brewer here from 10. What you got?
Quite a lot going on. So Monday, terms back, kids are going back to school, MPs are back at work, so everything will go completely.
Kids are back at school today?
A lot of them, yeah. I've got a little nephew starting his first day at school today.
Obviously not at private school, I think. You'll find that's Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah, that'll be November.
Yeah, November for 3 weeks. Did you use the word breasts up then, Fraser?
I was referring to a small bird that people often have in their gardens. Tit. Anyway,
right.
Home Secretary announcing new rules tightening up migration and who can come here with their asylum seeker. I mean, they are literally so out of touch. They have no idea that this is properly, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic as it goes down. They ain't seen this coming. They think a bit of a reshuffle of the communication staff.
Have you seen that about Darren Jones? He's just been appointed a new position in Keir Starmer's Downing Street. He's now Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister. So he's walked away from the Treasury because that's going to be a disaster.
This is Darren Jones, who thinks that the majority of migrants coming on the boats are women and children.
So he's a liar. So he's going to be perfect in the job.
Absolutely brilliant.
Because black is white and white is black.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all... The whole thing is all mad. Angela Rayner, I know you've been talking about a lot today, all of these questions. Again, hypocrisy. Is there tax dodging? Well, we don't know, but we'd like to ask some questions. We'd like them answered.
The whole thing about her is, and this probably sounds the wrong way to put it, but I sort of thought she was a breath of fresh air when she first came.
I really like it.
From a single mum, young, working class, and she's worse with her nose
People are really snotty about her on that front.
No.
I think her